Hii serikali hii, mimi nawaambia hii serikali ni ya mahasla. Hakuna nusu mkate, hakuna handshake, hakuna hiyo borojo.
Jana nimeona wale wazee tulishinda. Ati hiyo mzee akisema ati he will not be coerced or intimidated to joining our government. Wewe mzee sikia. We have no business within our government. Hatuna haja na hatugojei wewe. We are not looking for you and we have no time. Stop saying that people can force you to come to this government. Forget about being forced or coerced. We are not interested because sisi tuko na kazi ya kufanya.
Kama kuna mtu ako na namba ya William Ruto, arekodi hii video mtumie. Maisha yangu tangu nizaliwe sijawahi kuona mtu muongo, mfisadi, baradhuli, dhabdhabina kama William Samoei Ruto.
Mimi Hassan Joho nikitaka kuongea, mimi I don't even dream of engaging with them. Ati huyu akitaka aje aongee sio na mimi niongee na Ruto nini? Mimi nikamtafute atanipa nini? Wilbaro.
I wonder.
Nilipeleka Wilbaro mimi la kimtaani la kucheza nalo zamani.
We have a choice to reject over 60% of these names or give President Ruto his skunk. Apart from a few individuals who are not even more than 8, the rest are incompetent, unqualified, have integrity issues, are people who cannot deliver this country from where it is to the next level that we want the country to move in.
A few moments later.
Now forwarded the name of John Mbadi Ngongo to the Ministry of National Treasury and Economic Planning. The Honorable Hassan Ali Joho, Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Hola, hola. A very, very good morning to you. It is the 10th of March, Abi?
Yes.
Why was I looking confused or not sure of myself? It's the 10th of March.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's raining, it's pouring, the old man is snoring. He bumped his head on the edge of the bed and couldn't get up in the morning. How are you? You, good morning. CT, good morning.
I am very well, thank you.
I can see. Yes. How was your weekend?
I got between the moon and New York City.
Look at you. I know what you're doing. Did you?
I did.
And upon which did you land? Gee. Where?
Yes, I am well.
Good. I'm happy to see you, CT. That's genuinely, from the bottom of my soul. From the bottom of my tippy toes.
Yes, and from the entire and complete vision of your eyes.
That is me. Yes. Exactly. Dennis Aseto, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Salama, nashukuru.
Uko salama?
Nashukuru.
Very good.
Very, very good.
Did you see it raining?
Oh, yeah, it's pouring.
Proper.
It started raining at around 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Around Naivasha Road, and I'm like, yo, it's about time.
The weatherman said it's going to be heavy like this for the next couple of days. We're going to see serious rain until the 11th of March. And then after that, it's going to kind of space out.
11th is tomorrow.
Yeah, but it's he said 2 days. He said from the 9th until the 11th, it's going to be heavy around the country for about, 3/4 of the counties.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's going to level off. But we should expect it's going to be an everyday affair for
20
the season.
millimeters, yeah.
And that's where we are this morning. Me, as you can see, I am fine.
As you can see.
Yeah. I must insist.
City can finally see you. He has his glasses on, so yeah.
Now the rain is gone.
I can see all obstacles in my way.
Obstacles in my way.
Gone are the...
Gone are the what?
Whatever it is, they've gone.
They've gone. Yeah. Now we know it's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Yes. I'm telling you. Have you guys seen Ednah?
Yes, I have.
My goodness, today she's looking more beautiful than ever. Telling you, it's not a small wahala at all.
It's not a small wahala.
No, whatever she did, or whatever she's doing, whatever is being done, just continue. Don't stop.
Blessings upon blessings.
I'm telling you, Naso. And that's where we are this morning. Guys, March is flying by. It's already a third through the month. And my goodness, this is where we are. The days are going quickly and things are happening. No sooner than had we left here on Friday, that people congregated at the Kenyatta International. Is it Kenyatta? It is International Convention Center. I was going to say convection.
Is it conference or convention?
It used to be conference. It's now convention.
It's convention.
Yeah.
Huh? So we no longer conference. We convention.
We convent.
Yeah. We convene. Yeah, we convene.
This guy knows English.
You know, convent is
where the
sisters
nuns go. Yeah. Convene then becomes convention. Convection is something totally different. Go and ask your chemistry teacher. Anyway, no sooner had that happened than people convened.
Yes.
And things happened. My goodness. Just when you thought it was safe to do what?
Get out of the water. Or is it get in the water?
This one, get in, get out.
Get in, get out.
The water is rising. And that's where we are today. A number of things are happening, and we're going to have some conversations around those things today. And just looking at, the tides and in which way the wind is blowing, they contribute to the conversations that we have right here on the Situation Room every weekday between 6 and 10 a.m. And we're going to kick off those conversations at 7 o'clock with Dr. Martin Oloo. He's a lawyer and political analyst, and we'll be talking with him about the impact of the Rut-Rila deal. I like how it's already the Rut-Rila deal. We'll have that conversation with Dr. Oloo at 7 o'clock. Those are the questions we'll be asking. That ought to be a fun ride. And then finally at 9 a.m., Peter Mutinda is the president of the Africa, Asia and Middle East Chamber of Commerce. He joins us for a conversation around fostering sustainable business growth and what Kenya actually needs to learn. So it's a jam-packed morning. That's what we have in store. Those are some of the things that we'll be looking at corner to corner. And we're always glad that you join us every morning and get into it proper. As we start the week and look into many of the conversations that will be shaping, or many of the issues that will be shaping conversations, those are some of them. And we always thank you for getting in the room with us. And speaking of which, how about we say a hello to you as we get into the room with us? And speaking of which, how about we say a hello to you as we get into a new week, shall we? Many people clicking in, not to forget that our live streams are up on YouTube, on Facebook and on X. And saying hello to our audience on KTN. Greetings from Dayton, Minnesota, says Cyprian. And salutations de Kigali, says Michael Hollande. Bonjour, mes chers amis. In other words, good morning or hello, my dear friends. Don Sabo says the handshake. Yes, the handshake keeps on changing. Yeah, indeed. Nusumkate Corporation, broad bread. I do not know what it is now. How are you, Ndu, CT, and Dennis? No, Anki's not here. Still feeling unwell. Prayers up for her. Maybe CT knows. Maybe CT knows if it's a handshake, if it's a bread, communion, something. CT, maybe you know.
Whether it's a what?
Well, whatever it is. If it's a handshake or if it's something else.
Well, they told us what it was. It's an MOU. An MOU essentially is an agreement to agree.
It's an agreement to agree.
Yes.
Or agreement to not to
agree.
Disagree.
It's an agreement to agree, not legally binding even if you wake up very early in the morning, but at least it tells you the intentions, and that's just about it.
And there's something, that's for sure.
Yes, and it requires people to be gentlemanly about it. The word cricket comes to mind.
Exactly.
That is, if people are going to play cricket, yes, then it works. But otherwise, an MOU is not even what the paper is written on.
Really, most times.
No, it is not. It just expresses a desire and an understanding that this is a desire that is shared and that it is hoped that they will achieve it.
Exactly.
Not legally binding. Whatsoever.
Not legally binding. And if anything, that should give you some insights into what could possibly happen in the near future.
Call it a roadmap. Road path. What do you want to call it?
Desmond Ortiz says, happy Monday, packed with rains. And today we are going to remove seeds. Remove seeds? Sour.
Well, he must know what it is that he means.
I hope so.
Yes.
Robert says, good morning from Ombaso. Good morning from Doha, beautiful people. Ask Ndu what is the meaning of Ola Tokumba and Ile-Ife. I don't know. That's Yoruba now. I'll find out for you though. Nyarambe is Felix. That's where Felix is, and he's greeting us this morning. Hello, Spice family. Good morning. On Monday, I sprang 1 hour ahead, and now my show starts an hour late. Good week ahead. What did you do? Yeah, those guys who go into the future. Rahim Tula says, good morning from Colchester. Kenya University is where Lucky and Jockey is this morning. R says, Saseni Tuko Salama. Jose Mahinda says, hello and good morning, everybody. Sir George Gashoiri is tuned in this morning and says, happy Monday from Manchester. Looking forward to a great show. The leadership of our motherland needs an overhaul. Many calling for that as well. Kisa Daniel says, good morning. Politicians wote ni mikora. Mungu kumbuka wanao. Oi. Good morning, Kenyans, the country of peculiar political class. Wow, it's interesting how everybody has woken up this morning. Wakire abantu abaya. This kissy, I will speak it no matter what. Even if it's sounding somehow now, just bear with me. Guten Morgen, says Victoria. Where is everybody gone? Okay, we're still here. Why were some people so irritable immediately after the KICC announcement? That's a good question, my take. Mtufulani says, good morning. I'm curious to hear CT's opinion about the alleged sale of the Bomas of Kenya to a person from Thanksgiving's main dish. Okay. Things are boiling nicely, says Marvin Lukulu. It's getting slippery and Rut-Rila will eventually fall into the tumbukiza that they orchestrated. Walala. Monica Oile says, hello, Spices. Good morning, guys, says Lucy. Lucky, rather. Good morning, family. Well, good morning to you. Hey, where's everybody coming from all of a sudden? Good morning from Embu. We are getting you loud and clear. Thanks, SpiceFM. We love you. We love you too, Daniel and Jagona. Always good to have you guys in the room. Tuned in from Alcor in Doha. And Derek Olakit says, good morning, tuned in from Eldoret. I'm just skipping all over the place here, aren't I? Rose Grace tuned in and says, good morning, Indu City Aseto. Blessed week ahead to all of you. Continue doing the good job you're doing. Thank you, Grace, for tuning in diligently every morning. Asante. Desmond now is worried. He said, did you say Ednah is more beautiful than tomorrow? Yes. Even more beautiful than the things that are coming. That's how serious this thing is. Staki wahala. You don't want to wahala, why? Angry Mamanyi says, Bwakire Buya Tata. Now you people are making it. What is Buya Tata now, Ednah? I'm confused. Buya Tata, Ndoche, keep you. I've just learned a few words. Now they've just confused me completely. Okay. Sango Nini Banaba, SpiceFM, Otkin, we hear you. Good morning, Kenyans. Betrayal in the city. Good morning from Hong Kong. To tell CT that a Zambian proverb says, hating old friends because of a visitor will make you regret when the visitor goes. Sawa. Good morning, my people. CT Princess Ndu. Good morning, George. Aseto is here. Leadership. We need leadership in Kenya. Sawa. Enthusiastic is tuned from Roanoke in Virginia. And Martin Kongo says, good morning. Happy Monday from Israel. It's getting slippery indeed. My take says, say no to a single story. From who? Kamose says, good morning, SpiceFM. You are spicy to us. Asante Sana. Tuning from LA is John Obai. And from Lagos, Nigeria, Michael Mane says, good morning. Yeah, daylight saving has already kicked in. Everybody's online this morning and so glad to have you in the room. Patrick Okoh from Kisumu County is tuned in this morning. We see you, brother. Thank you for joining us this morning. Karibu, karibu, karibu sana. And clicking in all those numbers, keep tuning in as we do. CT.
Yes, please.
The rains have come.
They have.
Which country did you go to over the weekend and come back to give us proverbs?
I have been in what we refer as the Coup Belt, without saying so.
Yes.
Yes, in West Africa. But the Coup Belt isn't just in West Africa, actually. This place, it spans from Guinea to Sudan, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Gabon. You know, one of the things about the Coup Belt is the prevalence, the frequency with which those countries have coups. And so the term seems to have been well earned. But the question that one asks is, what is it that leads to this sort of disturbance in this region? By the time you're being called a belt that is known for coup d'etats, and I used to have about that thing.
Coup d'etat.
Coup d'etat.
Coup d'etat.
Yes.
Even the plural is just coup d'etat.
Yes.
The S is there, but you don't pronounce it.
Well, then I have it.
It's a very interesting language. You don't, in French, you don't ever pronounce the letter in the last letter in a word, except the following word is a vowel, starts with a vowel.
Good.
Like United States is Etats-Unis, but the word is Eta for state. Uni is united, so you wouldn't pronounce the S. But uni starts with a U, so you would pull the S. Etats-Unis. Please carry on.
It has uni.
It has uni.
Yes.
A lot of these problems seem to stem from some military dissatisfaction with the way the civilian governments are running their affairs.
Yeah. It's also said that the people of West Africa are very stubborn people.
The people of West Africa are stubborn like other human beings. People are stubborn. But usually being stubborn doesn't mean that you want a coup.
No.
Being stubborn simply means and you want to be convinced.
Absolutely.
And this thing of just being told you to act.
No.
Explains that I understand.
Come slow. Kuja pole pole.
Yes, exactly as we say. So anyway, one of the things that stands out when you look at the causes of some of these coups is how it is the government of the day in this region tend to support the elite class to the detriment and the neglect of the majority of the people who are, as we say, dirt poor.
Telling you.
I mean, there's a poverty you look at, you actually don't believe that human beings survive under those conditions.
Yeah.
Perhaps it speaks of the resilience, and yet it is not necessary. When you contrast with the opulence and the extravagant, the opulence that those in the elite class demonstrate, it's not something that is pleasant. So in many ways one can understand, hopefully learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but learning is a different story altogether. We are in this country is interesting. And you tell me what you think it is.
Give us some clues.
It's a Gabonese republic.
Oh, you've just given us the country.
Yes, I have.
I thought we were guessing.
No.
Okay.
I thought I would just tell you.
Okay.
Because it's not the Republic of Gabon. It's a Gabonese
Republic.
Now, the question I'll ask, the capital? No,
not me. Okay.
Aseto.
Yes, sir.
Capital of Gabon.
Libreville.
Yes.
Oui.
It is very good. Very, very good. Official language?
What's that?
French. Right. The proverb. But this country is rich, eh?
Quite.
This one. Very, very rich. When a fool is cursed, he thinks he's being praised. When a fool is cursed, he thinks he's being praised. Sometimes the opposite is also true.
Yeah.
When he is praised, he thinks he's being cursed.
Yeah.
So, food for thought?
Big time. This one I want to hear what people have to say because it's thrown me for a proper loop.
Kabisa? Loop, eh?
Loop kabisa. How about we look at the headlines in the paper? Please note that I said paper. There's a reason.
I have noted that you have said paper.
On Kenya's bold newspaper this morning, the Standard Group. The Standard newspaper. Jeez,
all boldness.
Right.
Hey,
everywhere.
Moving along. On the Standard this morning, the headline, Pulpit Arrogance. As millions of Kenyans battle high cost of living, President Ruto has splashed 140 million shillings on churches in just a week. Cry. Protests erupted in Nairobi Saturday and were met with a brutal police crackdown as furious Kenyans questioned whether these donations reflected generosity or a blatant display of political excess amid economic turmoil. Where? He did say a couple of things in church. He said, well, you know what? Tutajenga nyumba ya Mungu. Tutajenga nyumba ya Mungu.
God doesn't live in that house.
Tukitoa tunatolea Mungu.
Bas.
We got it.
Mimi sitasema, I didn't say it is an ultimatum, lakini tumesema nini? Tutajenga. Sijasema pende usipende. Nimesema tutajenga nini?
Nyumba ya Mungu.
Right. We've heard.
Sasa ile mshachanga last week mtaniletea, nitafanya times 2 nitawapatia. Sawa. Other headlines in the paper this morning. Rut-Rila heckled in Kisii over political deal with Ruto. That was interesting to watch. That a number of gentlemen decided to go down to the Gusii Stadium to launch the kit for the football club Saka. The football, the name keeps leaving me. But anyway, they all decided to go down. A number of MPs, the Nairobi governor, Kisii governor, Raila Odinga. The crowd wasn't very happy when he tried to address them, so we'll look into that as well. Mysterious return of Wajir MCA. The fella just rocked up.
Yeah, just showed up.
After being missing for 6 months, and then he's just, hi. So
who?
The Wajir
MCA who's been missing.
That fellow.
Since August last year. October last year. Just showed up. Well, the question, Oga, how far? Where have you been?
Oh. He's been where he was.
For a walkabout.
Walkabout is good.
Sindo.
Yeah.
US-China rivalry goes to the seas, and so we'll look into the questions of that. I just want to look very briefly at this headline in terms of what we are saying 140 million shillings can do. Usually, when we talk about corruption, you just say, well, there's a loss. But usually you need to tie that loss to the possibility of what it can actually do in a country in terms of development. So let's take a quick look at 140 million shillings, what it can do according to these headlines. It can pay capitation, one of my favorite, of 6,296 students for a year under the free day secondary education. Capitation at 22,244 per student. So almost 7,000 students will be taken care of. But
Yes.
let's spend it on a church. Build 7 kilometers of tarmac road at 20 million per kilometer. But let's give it to a church. Pay a year's salary for 194 nurses earning 60,000 shillings per month. But let's give it to a church. Build 40 classrooms at 3.5 million shillings each. I'm going to stick on that one. Build 40 classrooms where you have children who are sitting on stones in the heat and in the rain. Now imagine that was the heat and we're complaining about it. The weatherman has told us it's going to rain for the next month. It's going to be heavy for the next couple of days. Where are these children going to school? Could have built classrooms could have built 40 classrooms that would have taken up some of these children. Dialysis, when you go to some of your level 6 hospitals in this country, the machines are not adequate. 50 dialysis machines at a cost of between 1.2 and 3.3 million shillings each could be purchased with 140 million shillings. You could fund 2,800 students with bursaries at 50,000 shillings a year with 140 million. You could construct 100 low-cost housing units at 1.4 million shillings each, and you could buy 20 police vehicles. You would also provide water access to 40 million people by drilling Lotikipi Basin Aquifer at 2.5 million shillings.
25 million.
2.5 million.
Sorry, at 25 million shillings, you could have water access to 40 million people. These are all, nice, fun things you could do with 140 million shillings. Yeah. But we'll look into the details of that story later and what is decided that 140 million shillings could actually go to do. CT?
Well, let's look at the star, shall we?
Let's do it.
Right. Rut-Rila pact spells doom, says Gachagua. All right. Ex-DP says deal now gives the president free hand to do whatever he likes. Cabinet calling, opposition MP over the moon about possible appointment. Story about an MP and what he thinks he's going to get, and has started organizing himself, getting members of staff, blah, 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 and the story goes on. Mismanagement of SACCOs will come to an end, says Oparanya. Really? How did you get to the point where it was being mismanaged? And what
Oparanya is still around. Sorry.
Doesn't talk much, Oparanya.
Sheesh, okay.
No, it doesn't talk much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't talk much.
He's handling the cooperative, so yeah.
Yeah, that's what he says.
Cute guy.
Okay. He says that's what he said. Okay, so we'll wait and see
We'll
what
wait and see.
I'm sure there's a plan in place, and we'll hear about the plan.
There
won't we?
must be.
Yeah.
Right. Remember, at the end of these stories, please remember, there are people who save their money. These SACCOs don't have money other than that people have given them to manage for them. Okay?
No.
So, when we hear of a problem, please, it's not a SACCO that has a problem now. It is individuals whose money is with the SACCO who are going to have untold problems.
Yeah.
Yes. And it must be seen in that light. NSC investors smile all the way to the bank. Okay, good for them. President Ruto extends olive branch to rivals. Olive branch. Take. Okay? Right. Gachagua to state. Stop purge on my allies in House committees. But this is bound to happen, Chief. If you are no longer the flavor that is in preference, and there are people who align to that particular flavor, this is politics. It's what happens. They'll then put people who they feel are their allies, as opposed to your allies. Yes, exactly. That's it. They also have a story of this guy who sort of like disappeared and then came back.
Yeah, okay.
Mandago, scrap MP civil servants cover and merge with Shah.
Very good.
Very good.
Love it.
Does that not make sense?
Makes sense.
Proper.
There's one here which you have to explain to me how it makes sense. Unless Kenyans approve budget, church donations will continue. Cherargei.
Huh?
Just leave it at that. I also read it and went high, and I just leave it at that.
So,
right.
Dennis's face. I'm about to see, we look at weather and traffic, then we can come back for Dennis to be a little bit more confused about that last statement, because what on earth is actually going on here? All right, it's 26 minutes to 7 o'clock. We'll look at these stories in a little bit more detail when we come back from this break to take a look at the weather and traffic. Don't go away.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with Spice FM.
Rainy morning in Nairobi, 17 degrees. We'll see highs of 25, and it's very cloudy in Nakuru, going to highs of 24 today. It's also a rainy morning in Nyeri, highs of 25, and the cloudy conditions in Eldoret will give way to rain at some point, going to highs of 22. Partly sunny at 27 in Mombasa, and we'll see sunny conditions in Malindi at 27. Mostly cloudy at 20 in Kisumu, going to highs of 27, while it's cloudy at 19 in Kakamega. We'll see highs of 26. It's cloudy at 21 in Kampala, highs of 26, while Dar es Salaam at 27 will be sunny through Monday. We're looking into a mostly cloudy, rather a clear Johannesburg at 16, highs of 26, while it's partly sunny at 26 in Mogadishu. It'll be cloudy at 14 in Addis Ababa, going to highs of 25. It's partly cloudy at 29 in Lagos with highs of 33, and cloudy at 24 in Kinshasa, going to highs of 34. Monday afternoon is sunny in Beijing at 12, while Paris at 10 is cloudy. London at 9 is hazy, and it's 8 degrees and clear Sunday night in New York, coming into Monday, highs of 11 and lows of 7.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best.
So we're likely to see things slow down just a little bit with the rain, of course, as people are going a little bit more carefully than they normally would. There is traffic on Jago Road as you try to approach Landis, but not too bad for now. Serious traffic on Kangunda Road today, moving very slowly, trying to connect to the outer ring. And there is traffic coming off of the Thika Superhighway. Heavy traffic coming off the Thika Superhighway, coming in from that Roiro interchange all the way through, down through Githurai, out to Kasarani, and then on to Survey. So that looks like it's going to be quite busy for now. Also on Gong Road, there is some traffic coming in from Naivasha Road, touching on what's happening as you try to get into the city. Not too bad on Wayaki Way, at least not for now. And the Southern Bypass looks pretty good. Traffic is building on Magadi Road, going out towards Langata Road, so that's one to watch as well. If you've not left, now might be a good time to do so, or you just chill and wait for this first deluge to get over with. But let's talk in the meantime. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Ruto gives 20 million shillings to Eldoret Church as youth protests at Jesus Winner. The latest gesture makes it a whopping 140 million shilling donation in just 1 week. So many are already saying, never again should you come and tell us that there is no money to do this. Never again should you say we're waiting for money to be able to fund schools or fund the doctors and the clinical officers been on strike, or nurses ready to down their tools. Never again should you come and tell us that we cannot afford it, because clearly somebody can. The president said those criticizing his donations to churches were unbelievers. So if you criticize me giving money to a church, it means that you do not believe. That is exactly what he said. In a display of defiance against mounting public criticism, President William Ruto has once again handed over 20 million shillings, this time to the Africa Inland Church Fellowship Annex in Eldoret. The latest gesture makes it a whopping 140 million shillings donation in just 1 week, having donated 20 million to another church last week and pledged 100 million. And while the president was making the donation, a firestorm was brewing at the Jesus Winner Ministry in Nairobi, where youth made true their threat to storm the church, which received a similar amount and a pledge of 100 million shillings from him last Sunday. It was no ordinary church service, as tension and confusion greeted worshippers who had arrived early for the morning service. The heavy police presence from the various units, including the General Service Unit, took charge and engaged the protesters in what? Running battles, as tension escalated into chaos later in the day. During the melee, at least 30 people were reportedly arrested, and some journalists covering the event as well. A Citizen TV cameraman was attacked by police officers, his camera confiscated and his phone allegedly formatted. According to, if they can do this to journalists, what about ordinary Kenyans? The church should be a house of God, not a fortress guarded like State House, said John Kamau, who witnessed the confrontation. So there was anti-riot police, there was all sorts of...
In church?
Yeah. Yes. GSU as well.
GSU?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Church?
Yeah.
Sunday?
Yes.
Right.
Running battles.
So the pastor, priest, bishop didn't preach the message?
He started preaching, but they said that he said Gen Z every 20 seconds of his address.
Yeah.
Every 20 seconds of his address, he was just saying Gen Z did that. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Gen Z.
Yeah.
My goodness. I mean, come on. And I keep saying, and I think I'm gonna say this for the longest time. The noise that you hear, all of this coming to church, shouting, whatever, these are symptoms. This is the headache, this is the chills, this is the fever, this is the rash, this is the itch. But there's something that your body is trying to tell you. You need to get up and go to the doctor, because the symptoms will destroy you if you don't sort the source of the disease.
You know, the thing is, they just don't care.
That's it.
Because on Friday, I was at KICC when that deal was being signed, yeah? And outside, supporters were dancing under the sun and all that. Whoever supporters they were, or the people who showed up.
There were people who showed up.
People who showed up.
They were dancing and singing.
They were dancing and singing.
And bathing in the fountain at KICC.
In the fountain, yeah. Inside, AC, good music, good ambience, everything you could think about. After that, the two went to the holding room, but the leaders who were there were actually given lunch just outside, you know. Feel good. Outside, people are dancing.
Did you have lunch?
Who, me? I was busy covering the event. But, yeah. But what you hear is, this deal that was signed is a deal that they say is not political, yet we all know it's political.
Who said it's not political?
He said.
You know that? It's like it's like the bicycle that's wrapped in wrapping paper, and somebody tells you, guess what it is.
It's not political. And when you look at what is happening the following day, 20 million shillings is being donated, and they just don't seem to care on what Kenyans are saying. Because while he was donating these 20 million shillings in Eldoret, in Nairobi it was fireworks. People are being arrested and being beat up. As the head of state, don't you just understand
what had we done
Kenyans,
this time?
Oh, at Jesus Winners Chapel. See, they were just tulienda kumsalimia. That 20 million shillings should be given to us as well.
Oh, people went for their share?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did they get instead of their share? A beating?
Yeah.
Beating and tear gas.
So that is their share?
That's their share.
Actually, you know, it's true. You know what? I keep saying, if I love you, you don't need to look for it. You will know.
You'll know.
If I don't care about you, you will also, in good measure, you will know. Forever and ever, they've been telling you exactly how you feel. The question is, when are you going to believe it? What we saw on Friday, you can be... In fact, I'm going to switch words around. I was flabberwhelmed and overgasted. Because I was like, wait a minute. These guys have decided that they have the panacea to the problems that Kenya is facing.
Do they?
And they've decided that they're going to sit in a room and they're going to plan it out and they're going to say, this is what we are going to do. And by virtue of the fact that we have come together, that means that we have found the solution to all the problems that Kenya faces. So we're going to shake hands in full glare of all the lights of Kenya under the cover of sunshine. And we're going to say, guys, you see these problems that Kenya is facing? Underdevelopment, taxes,
capitation.
Because we have come together, it's going to be fixed. That is essentially what you've been told. That all of this is going to be fixed because we've come together, and from now on, moving henceforth onwardly, everything is okay. What drugs? Cocaine, methamphetamine,
opium.
My friend.
Fentanyl.
Wallahi, one big cocktail of nonsense. People have drank it and then have stood on their heads and told you, you know what, guys? You see these problems that we're facing? Because we've now come together. We are fine.
But what makes you think it won't happen? What makes you think change won't come?
Good question. But Siti, it's not what makes us think it would not come. Did they have to shake hands for that change to come is the question.
What other options were there?
The president is the leader of this country. He has been given the powers by the people to do all these things irrespective of a handshake or not. He just chooses not to until his hand is shook.
Do you know what I think the solution is? Just do your job.
Yeah.
And when you
don't
ask
have-
someone to
if
help
I'm
you do
not-
your job, what does that tell you?
Okay, so now let the other person come and do it because you clearly can't.
I don't know.
Because you have had an opportunity to do it all this time. You've not been doing it. And so now here we are thinking that if somebody comes and joins you, then suddenly you will do it. That means it is that person that you need and you are not able to.
You see, the question that I've asked, let me ask it again. Let's use a phrase that has been used over and over, Ruto must go. He then goes. Then what? Okay, he's gone. Then what?
Ruto,
I keep hearing people saying this. I hear politicians saying this. He must go. Fine. Then what?
I guess this is a situation where Ruto go back to the polls and elect a new person. That's what the citizens want.
Is it really?
That is then what?
Let me tell you. I'm asking you so that you can give it thought.
Yes.
The must go is easy. The then what is not easy.
Let me tell you what I think. CT, I don't think he should go. I don't think must go is a solution. I think you should stay and do the thing Kenyans voted you in to do. Must go is easy. It's an easy out. It's an easy solution. Go. You know he can go. He can go sit in his house in Eldoret, sit in the one in Karen, sit in the one wherever else he has built. He can go. But that's an easy escape. I think he should stay, do the damn job that people voted you in to do.
And sort out
the issues. You appoint people who can't do their job, remove them, put people who can do the job. Must go is easy. Must go is very easy because you can go and then fold your hands for the next who's going to look at you. And then you can sit down and say, after all, Kenyans told me to go. No, sit there, do the job. Do the job that Kenyans have given you to do.
So
must go is easy.
Must go is easy.
Sit, do the work.
Sit there, do the work is the solution.
Do your job.
Clearly,
it's a
not doing
proposal.
nothing.
I'm proposing. What
do you think?
What have others said? You know, because
Dennis,
people have said must go then.
Must go. For me, what I think is, as the citizenry of the Republic, we need to realize that the person we are saying must go was put there by us, right? So this is a wake-up call, personally, for me, for the citizenry to know, to pretty much just vet the people they put into these offices.
100%. Yeah.
You know? So it is, right now, we are saying must go. Was there a solution before must go?
Yes, there was a solution. And what Ndu has said was a solution. The complaints are about things which were promised and which the citizenry waited to see done.
Yes.
And 2.5 years down the line, it doesn't appear like these things are going to get done. So, if the person who you voted into the job isn't doing it, I can understand why they're saying, look,
Then
if you
get
can't
out.
leave. And do solution, to me, makes more sense. No, don't go anywhere. Sit right there and sort this thing out.
If it doesn't?
My friend, that is the next question. And the question usually lies in what people... You see all these parties who are forming and coalescing and changing names, they're all trying to tell us that if they were in power, things would be different. So that's the question. Of all these people who want to be in power, tell me.
Of all of them that you saw...
All. Don't leave anyone out, okay? So they want to be in power, right? And we're saying we want to choose a leader who will be different, who will care for the people. Okay.
Who is it?
List the things you want the leader to have the qualities. And then post it against all those people who are parading and telling you they want to be president. Tell me which one fits the bill.
Which one?
Which one?
Which one?
Good question. I think they should tell us, the listeners.
Yeah. Who is it?
I think let's throw it back.
Yeah, because this thing of let's have an honest conversation with citizens. Okay, we have vented. Good. Now we know we have vented. Okay. Now let's talk concrete things, shall we? Who is this person? Because there's this lot of people, my fellow citizens, who are of the view, if you choose a good person who will do good things, fine. Who is that good person who will do the good things? And this good person, what are the qualities that make this person good? Have they ever been tested the position of authority? And how have they performed? Simple question. Authority. I'm not saying some lofty perch, just authority. And those who have been in position of authority before, what on God's good earth did they do with those positions?
It's true. And we may not be able to look at another story because I think it's important that we look at this and if you listen, a lot of times we hear things that are being said. But if you listened at the very beginning of this thing on Friday, when Edwin Sifuna said, I am Edwin Sifuna. Yes. I am the senator for Nairobi County, and I am speaking in my capacity. I am reading this statement in my capacity as ODM Secretary General. And it is upon that then I read the next statement. I am reading this in my capacity to execute as ODM Secretary General. The man is not happy with what he read.
He's not.
The man is not satisfied with that kind of thing. You know why? It holds a sentiment for the fact that just on what you're saying, CT, the whole lot of them who have come together. If you dress up a clown in a dainty dress, it's still a what?
A clown.
Thanks. The whole lot of them who've come together and think that that's the panacea for Kenya's problems, it is not. Coming together to tell us how now because of some 10-point agenda here suddenly, so tomorrow or the day after we're going to see that suddenly things have changed. No. I'm saying do your job. And I think in a position where you are in today, if you don't do your job, two things happen. You're put on PIP. Is it not called PIP? What do they call it?
Performance improvement.
Thanks. You're put on PIP or you're told to do what? Go home. But they give you the option for PIP. And I'm saying Kenyans need to put the government on PIP. Insist that the work is done. Constitutionalism is not a joke. It's not child's play. Use it. The time for Kenyans to rise up and say things need to be done properly, do it. You're giving him an easy escape by telling him he should go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think even as we talk about the 10-point agenda, let's not forget that this government was put in place on a 9-point agenda based on their manifesto. So here we have 10-point agenda. What happened to the 9-point agenda? These are the questions we should be asking ourselves. And even moving forward now, here is a part where us as the citizens, we need to remember that the power belongs to us. That it's about time that we exercise that which the Constitution has given us. We can recall these members of parliament. We can recall these senators.
That's what I'm talking about.
We can even start a process of recalling the president if we want to. But we cannot do that by just saying must go. Citizens must sit down and think through the decisions that they want. It is not a question of Ruto must go.
Let me ask you.
The question then is, then what?
Let me ask you something. So you see what the Standard has done here on this page with this 140 million shillings. If, for example, we could see today that another 7,000 students were able to go to school with 22,000 shillings provided for them. If we saw that another 7 kilometers of tarmac was built somewhere, if we saw that 194 nurses would get their salary on time to the tune of 60,000 shillings a month. If we saw that those poor precious children who are sitting outside today would actually get 40 extra classrooms. If we saw that 50 new dialysis machines were bought and purchased and put in your hospitals. If we saw that another 2,800 students got 50,000 shillings bursary in a year. If we saw that 100 low-cost housing units were actually built. If we saw that an additional 20 police vehicles were bought, if we saw that water access for 40 million shillings became a thing of reality, if we saw all of these things happening and more in abundance under President William Ruto, do you think Kenyans would be satisfied? I mean, come on.
You see that story that you just read about buying 20 police vehicles. Let's just say we took those 20 police vehicles and took them to Turkana today, where militiamen seized Kenyan waters as fishing feuds now turn deadly. People in Turkana would say the president has sorted out the insecurity problem in Turkana, but you're not doing that. 7,000 kids would have been to school. We choose to give that to the church. You think a parent would be complaining? No. But we choose not to do that.
But why are Kenyans complaining today? Because these things are not done. That's what I'm telling you, that it is a matter of Kenyans are actually dissatisfied because things are not being done. I keep saying people actually don't care who the president is. It could be a garden gnome for all we know. It could be a fairy. But things are being done and people are being satisfied. Tax them to 50% of within. But they can see that things are happening. People actually don't care who the president is, so long as things are being done.
Kenyans care about the services being rendered.
That's it.
It's not about the person at the top. We've had different presidents before. There's a reason why each and every single Kenyan today says Kibaki left a mark. President Ruto, what mark are you leaving?
But also that Kibaki left a mark. And that discussion is had. Now that Kibaki is no longer president. That man was criticized when he was president, my friend.
Yes.
Even when he was in there, people said,
First of all, even that first term, that man was criticized even by his own backyard. Okay? There's something to be said about leadership. And that's why it is required that someone be selfless. It is a thankless job. Don't assume that people are going to be happy even if you do good. You just do it. When you leave, they look and say, this guy did this.
Yes. Thank you. And that's what I'm saying. So this business where you go and spend, how much money did they spend on Friday inside KICC to bring people to put balloon and flower and red carpet, and then now jumping all over the place to come and say, now you have the solution to Kenya's problems, where the solution lies in each and every individual actually stepping up and sitting and doing their job properly. That's where the solution lies. Not this nonsense you want to come and give us audience to, whereby people have now been wined and dined for the whole of Friday, and then you say, now we have the solution for Kenya's problems. Who told you?
Well, it was the whole Friday.
Yes, now. By the time they finished and had a dad, went and had Allah.
City, where were you?
That's the thing that annoys me to death.
I miss these things.
Where did you go?
These things. I was there at the epicenter.
You represent.
Then you want to come and tell us that this is the answer. This 10 point is the answer to the what did they say? The frustration and the boiling temperatures that Kenya has been seeing. Us coming together and saying that we're going to fall.
Please remember.
Knock me over with a feather.
No, we shouldn't be too annoyed.
I'm angry.
No. Be angry as much as you wish. Because you will join very many other Kenyans who are extremely pissed off. But the point is this, Okay, once you are pissed off, and then,
then I'll calm down. But for now, allow me.
I don't want you to calm down. Where are you going to direct your anger?
Towards making sure that people know what they need to know. So that if I have to sit here every day,
that anger has to be productive.
It has to do something.
It has to be positive. It has to be productive. You vented, good. Now you understand.
Even if it means I will sit here every day and my agenda will be to say, excuse me, children don't have school fees, you people, please, children don't have school fees to go to school. You said you're going to send capitation. They have not sent.
That, my dear, is what it is that must be done. Because the assumption that the leadership will do what they're supposed to do without being reminded, that one pipe dream.
Yes.
They must be reminded to the point of irritation.
Exactly.
They must be reminded because all these political leaders swore to uphold the Constitution. They swore.
And to uphold and protect.
They swore before the Almighty God. You just go around swearing things before the Almighty God and doing the opposite and see what will happen to you. God is
you
not
invoke His name.
Yeah, God is not your age mate or your village mate for you to joke with. Okay? So you invoke God's name. You swear. And
then you don't.
And you know very well what you swear. Then you do the complete opposite. I'm not being a prophet of doom. I'm just saying, watch and see what happens to you.
That's just how it works.
Even if, City, you are a prophet of doom, the truth has to be told. Because we've lived at a time when the leaders that we have not been told the truth. And right now, they do not know how to deal with the truth that they're being told by Kenyans.
They don't want to.
As well as, I think it's about time as well that we just talk to Kenyans in these churches. When these funds are being brought, ask, where is it coming from? Why are you bringing it here? It beats the fight and Kenyans calling for accountability when others celebrate. I mean, let's all ask the difficult questions. You're giving us 20 million shillings. Yes, asante sana, but where is it coming from? The background check with it before we accept it. Mr. President, I mean.
It has to go somewhere. It has to be for something.
It has to.
It has to be for something.
First of all, must it be announced?
That they're joining forces?
No. Must you announce that you're giving money?
No, you shouldn't actually.
Must you announce? Must the whole world know you've given money?
That's what I'm saying.
If the idea is to give, why don't you just give quietly?
Yeah.
Why don't you just give?
So the idea is not just to give.
So that your left hand doesn't know what your right hand is doing. Just give. If you want to do something, just do it. It doesn't have to be seen. The things that you do for God, it's not for people to see. It is for God to see. That's what it's for.
Do you think, City, they think that we get shocked and surprised that they give these monies? They think that those are the things we want to see? Or they assume that's what we want to see.
But the
well, I mean, they're met with jubilation when they do, so they assume that's what people want.
Yes. Jesus was met with jubilation when he entered Jerusalem. Same crowd, same.
A week later, crucify
him. Same.
Because even the same place, people who left that church were discussing behind the scenes.
My friend,
I've seen reports here and there. The congregants from that church, like, but where is it getting this money from? So,
they're also asking that question.
Yeah.
Look, and I think that's the high tempo that we start on, and I think that's how we need to keep it. Folks are asking why I'm shouting, because if you don't, that's how people walk all over you.
Yeah.
And you have to raise your voice. You have to. You can't keep quiet about some things. That's why it's called Citizen Shed.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah. Ubaga ODM leader Raila Odinga now says that he has not betrayed his supporters by entering into a partnership with President William Ruto. Odinga defended the agreement, saying it aims to resolve existing challenges and not political ones.
Tulikuwa tayari tumesema tunataka kuendelea mbele na watu, na wewe mwenyewe nikamwambia tuendelee mbele, wakakataa. Nasema mara naenda akatuuliza, mimi niliwaeleza.
President Ruto, on his part, also described the agreement as one that will achieve peace and development without any discrimination.
It is necessary that we harness the unity of our nation, the talents available, the energies available, the political goodwill available for us. I want to encourage us as a nation to think about not what is in it for politicians and leaders, but what is in it for the people of Kenya. Not to think about the interest of a political party or a political side or one region.
However, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and DAP-K's Eugene Wamalwa have dismissed the partnership between the two, terming it as a betrayal to Kenyans.
What was happening is a distraction. We are all theatrics to remove ourselves from the focus. Tumesikiza wa Kenya wametuambia what we need to do. Na mchungaji amesema mnaomba to have the same goal.
There is betrayal all over, brother betraying brother. But the very interesting betrayal is that of politicians. Politicians are amazing. Please pray for them. I'm one of them.
We know that this position that is being created for the Prime Minister is meant for our friend and our senior Raila Odinga. That is the whole essence of them now picking up NADCO to create this position for Raila Odinga.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has advised residents of areas where crimes such as cattle rustling and killings have been recorded to report them to the nearest police station. Speaking in West Pokot County, Murkomen urged residents to work with police in order to be able to arrest those who are responsible.
Tutashikana pamoja namna hiyo, na tumesema ya kwamba wale wote ambao watashikwa kwa hapo lazima tupeleke kotini na lazima tuondoe katika jamii. Mimi naomba nyinyi tu kitu moja. Hawa viongozi nimeketi na hawa na wamekubali, wako tayari kupeana support. Mimi nawaomba ninyi jameni, tusikubali mhalifu mnamjua akae katikati yetu aende haribu uhusiano kati yetu na jamii yetu ambayo inakaribiana na sisi.
Murkomen stressed that the government's operation to eliminate criminals will not affect the community as a whole, as it will only target criminals.
Katika uongozi ya taifa la Kenya, hakuna mhalifu anaitwa Pokot, ama mhalifu anaitwa Marakwet, ama anaitwa Turkana. Mhalifu ni mhalifu. Na wakati tunatafuta mhalifu, hatutaumiza jamii na hatutasema ati jamii ndio imekosea. Tunaenda kwa huyo mhalifu na kumtoa kati yetu na kuondoa.
Heavy rains have been witnessed overnight in various parts of the country, causing flooding and major congestion, and this will continue up to tomorrow. Rainfall will intensify to more than 30 millimeters as it spreads to northwestern Kenya, and a gradual reduction in intensity will be experienced on Tuesday. The Met Department says counties experiencing the heaviest rains are Kericho, Bomet, Homa Bay, Siaya, Migori, Busia, Kisumu, Kisii, Nyamira, Nandi, Kakamega, Vihiga, Bungoma, Baringo, Nakuru, Trans Nzoia, Uasin Gishu, Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot. Others are Turkana, Marsabit, Nyandarua, Laikipia, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Murang'a, Kiambu, Nairobi, Machakos and Kajiado. Kenyans have now been urged to be vigilant and warned of the possibility of flooding. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
The rain is definitely going to compound things this morning. It's starting to slow down already on Langata Road as you get out towards the Nyaya Stadium roundabout. That'll be busy. On the Thika Superhighway, traffic is coming in all the way heavy from that Wairimu interchange. Well beyond that, actually coming in from Kenyatta Road, way up there, and traffic is slowly making its way down the Thika Superhighway out towards Survey. So that's busy. Also looking at traffic on Limuru Road, that has already built up and is coming in from United Nations Avenue. Looks like it's going to be busy from what comes round the Red Hill Link Road, and also on Waiyaki Way as you get towards Westlands and then out towards the city is starting to build up as well. So everywhere you look, really, you're going to find a little bit of it. And on Langata Road, giving off towards Rut-Rila Odinga Way and crossing over on Gong Road and then parts of Hurlingham. So that's doing that this morning. The rain is still coming down, so folks are going to go a little bit slower. Please be careful. Fog lights up, you will need them, and slow down just a little bit so that we can keep everybody safe. We'll talk and keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning at 6 minutes after 7 o'clock into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Monday, the 10th of March. It's a rainy one around the country, and we are told that the rains will continue heavy like this for a while. And so it's a bit of a change. That heat had to rise at some point. And so getting into our conversation for this hour, we welcome all our audiences on our live streams, YouTube, Facebook, and on X. Wairimu, good morning, or is it good night? Always good to have you in the room. And also to our audiences on KTN. We're getting into a conversation this hour following the events that took place on Friday. And just before, and just as we do that, our guest this hour, no stranger to the hot seat, but in matters hot, Dr. Martin Oloo is not one to keep his mouth shut, and he's here with us this morning. And so we say Karibu Sana.
Thank you for having me, and good morning. I haven't seen you and City for a while, and so I intend to engage you very vigorously.
Oh, vigorously. Okay.
I know it's a rainy morning. What a blessing. We need a bit of rain.
It's true. To kind of, cool things down.
Yeah, the only guy I'll take easy is Dennis, because I don't know him that much, so I'll not be hard on him.
Oh, really? You might want to be careful. So, Dr. Oloo, we're going to, of course, talk around a number of things, get some insights, and that's what we do. A lot of times people think we just sit and talk. Yeah, sometimes you do. But what a conversation does, that it brings out insights that maybe sometimes you have not been able to embrace or you didn't even think of. Yeah. And that forms your thinking, and that forms what you're going to talk about in the future, and then how you will act later. Right. It's important for us to say that because that's what conversation does. But even before we get into it, CT is going to welcome you with today's proverb. He'll tell you where he's gone this week, and then you can interpret this proverb for us.
I'm keen to know where he has been.
Okay. We're in the Coup Belt.
The Coup Belt.
Yes, the country is the Gabonese Republic.
Yes.
Okay. The proverb, when a fool is cursed, he thinks he's being praised.
An interesting one. Society has an interesting way to advise itself, and usually a lot of guys who would be in a society miss out on the wit and the humor that the advice carries. So it's possible to think you're being praised when you're actually being thrown down the valley.
Okay.
We even said earlier on that the opposite is also true. Someone can be praised and he thinks he's being cursed.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It depends on where they're sitting.
Yes.
But most often, because of the nature of that proverb, is that it is likely that when you don't get it, you can't hear it.
Very true.
Right. And so those are insights to look into, definitely. Thanks for sharing that with us this morning. So, of course, things happened on Friday. Before that, there were rumors, there was murmuring, there was chatter about political circles that it was possible that President William Ruto and Raila Odinga would enter into a pact. But what we saw then after was that, it was not far from the truth. But the two parties essentially came together, not to fold into one party, but to agree on a modus operandi for moving forward. And there are certain things that were said, and there are certain things that were then, agreed upon. Both Secretary Generals of both parties, in the persons of Edwin Sifuna and Omar Hassan, came out and said, this is what we want to do. It was interesting because top of that was, the current political temperature would then have been cooled down by this memorandum of understanding that the two parties would. They would foster things like development. They would ensure that the rule of law was adhered to. They would ensure that, people had the freedom of speech and people had the freedom of representation. It went across the board. And we came out at the end of it whereby they then addressed crowds and got into the weekend as though now with this pact, Kenya's problems essentially have been solved. And that starts off our first question this morning, is that with this Raila Ruto, or rather ODM UDA pact that we saw on Friday, have we now finally seen the panacea to Kenya's problems?
Not exactly. And let's do it a little bit earlier than this. ODM had a pact with other parties in Azimio. To date, ODM has not renounced those pacts, neither has it withdrawn from those pacts. So how does ODM, with a pre-elections coalition with other parties, jump from that coalition to this other agreement without reneging or without recalling or without calling it out off, especially with the other party? So there is a lie. UDA has other pacts, both pre and post elections. Where were those parties in this conversation? So that is it now the case that UDA has also abandoned its pre-election coalitions? And is it now that ODM has also abandoned its pre-election coalitions? And are they forming a new coalition? Therein is the legal problem. That both parties are living a lie. They are not withdrawing from their current coalitions, but they are purporting to enter into other relationships.
Would I need to withdraw from one agreement that I had with a different entity, even if I was part of that entity? Would I need to collapse that in order to enter into another agreement with another separate party?
Absolutely.
Legally, from a legal point of view?
Yes. A pact is a pact. A contract is a contract. An agreement is an agreement. A marriage is a marriage. You cannot go into another marriage when you have not dissolved the previous marriage.
Oh, you can, but it would be against the law.
Yeah, absolutely. So in legally speaking, you can't. Yeah. So here, what we are saying is that the political hygiene that we're encouraging is the problem. That people can breach the law, people can act extra legally and still want to make justification. So what I would say is that first, let us clean house. Let ODM go and clean house with Azimio, UDA clean house with the other political parties. And yes, form another agreement. Nobody's saying you can't form. He's saying do it, but do it legally and make sure that we are having a political hygiene and a legal hygiene as well. So my issue would be that you do not solve a problem by creating other problems. You do not run away from a legal responsibility by entering another legal relationship. So basically what we want to do is call them out to be able to speak to the issue. Is ODM in Azimio or out of Azimio?
Well, according to Eugene Wamalwa, this pact with Rut-Rila and Ruto over Friday was essentially the final nail in the coffin for Azimio.
Impliedly. But legally, the documents that they submitted to the Register of Political Parties remain so. So what one would be urging is that please do the correct thing. So that when you go to the National Assembly, for example, do not expect other political party members of Azimio to come along with the ODM, because ODM hasn't gone along with them to this MOU or this agreement, whatever you call it. So that you know that the ANC that folded into UDA had no representation at that meeting. And on Ford Kenya, that is a member, was not there. So the questions then are, were they happy? Were they aware? Or were they just busy, as they have explained, in or doing other national duties? Therein is the political question. Yeah.
Martin.
Go ahead.
Yes, Dennis.
All right. Martin, now, as the 10-point agenda has been released by the two gentlemen, in there lies the implementation of NADCO report. And when we talk about NADCO report, we go back to how it was actually, how it came into place. Now, you find the likes of Eugene Wamalwa and Jeremiah Kioni were part of NADCO report that came up with that report that ought to have been implemented. And in that report, then there is office of the opposition. We have the office of the Prime Minister that needs to be implemented. Now, as we talk about the implementation of these, as you look into the law, how will these work? Because already there are recommendations on how NADCO report would be implemented. Did we need another pact from ODM and UDA for it to be implemented?
Precisely, that's where the problem is. The NADCO pact was negotiated between UDA and Azimio. The representation in Azimio was across parties. In fact, you've not mentioned Kalonzo Musyoka, the Wiper party leader, who actually led the Azimio pact on that. Eugene on behalf of DAP and others. So basically what you're saying is that the NADCO report was a multi-sectoral or multi-party kind of an arrangement. So how can it be that the two parties, ODM and UDA, want to purport to implement it? Now, that should create a problem. The second issue is, what is in this NADCO report, and how legally binding or how constitutional are some of the recommendations? Indeed, you've mentioned some things like offices of the leader of opposition. This is now why I say we do not seem to understand the architecture of our constitution. Our constitution does not anticipate a leader of opposition, and you cannot then create that office and insert it into the constitution unless you change the architecture of the constitution. So I don't think that our intention was to create a leader of opposition. Indeed, there is majority and minority. In other words, all of us are in government, only that there are majority guys and minority guys. We know that Parliament or the National Assembly is part of government in the sense that it is the other arm of government. There's the judiciary, there's the national executive, and the legislature. So we know. So if you say you are creating the leader of opposition inside a legislature that is part of the executive or part of the government, so to speak, what are you talking about? The design of our constitution does not anticipate a leader of opposition. And so NADCO's position on this is one that can be called to question. Yeah. So whatever you want to implement in NADCO, there are a lot of things there that cannot fit into the constitutional architecture. Yes, you'll make amendments of the law. You will try to make the amendments of the constitution. But unless you look at the constitution in totality, you are going to get piecemeal amendments which will not conform to the architecture of the constitution.
Right.
Let me ask this question, Dr.
Yes.
The agreements that this coalition, the coalitions that the parties got into before the elections are a requirement of the Kenyan Political Parties Act.
Yes.
It's required.
Yes.
Registered with the Register of Political Parties. Now, when we look at what was signed on Friday, it was an MOU.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a coalition agreement with certain political parties, does that then ensure that or guarantee or preclude you from having an MOU with somebody else?
Now, this is now a terminology issue. That when you see them call it an MOU, is essentially an attempt to run away from legal obligations.
Okay. Yes.
But then if they are going to use the MOU to then begin to canvass legal implications or legislation bills and so on, what does it amount to? If they are going to use that already, and you see, as we say, we talk about the MOU, you're seeing the reconstitution of parliamentary committees already, and ODM is slowly creeping into those, and in some cases even taking the chairmanship and so on. So already there is a post election coalition happening.
So it sounds a bit dodgy though.
Albeit, and illegally, and dodging the legal implications of it. So use MOU because you don't want us to use forced coalition.
So where exactly is the illegality?
The illegality is that having entered into a contract and an agreement,
that's a
before the
legally
election,
binding document.
Yes.
An MOU is not.
I'm coming to it.
Yes.
That's why the terminology here is carefully crafted.
Yes.
That they are entering into a MOU. But impliedly, if I was to look at what is happening, is that they are entering into a coalition without wanting to say so and without wanting to put it legally in that manner.
Let me take this a little further.
Yeah.
When you enter into a legally binding document as a political party, who normally signs off on it? Is it the party leader or the Secretary General?
It depends on what your constitution says. If it says party leader, it's a party leader. If it says Secretary General, it's Secretary General. But in this dispensation, most likely you'll see that coming at the political party leaders' perspective, so that even when you're looking at coalition, the coalitions will be carrying the political party leaders. What the Secretary Generals will do is simply to endorse what it says. So in this case, the party leaders have the responsibility to enter into agreements or to enter into relationships. They've done it. Legally, yes, because their constitutions would allow it. Does it carry weight? Yes, because if nobody is raising it within their parties, then it's not an issue. Any of them are officials, therefore there's no problem. So what we are seeing is a carefully crafted and a way in which the legal parts of it are being scattered so that you can have.
So Dr. Is there an illegality?
I want to say there is an illegality, and here is what I'm saying. An illegality because you are entering into a partnership or a coalition arrangement without saying so, when you know for sure that you have other subsisting legal arrangements. Now, when you want to talk about illegality, that can be one. The other one is irregularity.
Okay.
So that it's irregular to purport to be entering into an agreement or into an arrangement when you know that other mechanisms subsist. So you might be okay legally, you might not have breached the law, so to speak, but you've acted in such a manner that the net effect is to scat it.
Okay. Dr. Oloo, I have to ask that, so there's certain things within this. The NADCO report being, the first of the 10 of them. But there are 3 things in there that I'm confused about just a little bit.
Yes.
The first one was that they wanted to continue to make integrity integrity being the cornerstone of Chapter 6 of the Constitution, meant that what they wanted to do was ensure that they strengthen accountability mechanisms to combat corruption and ensure ethical leadership. That was very clear as one of the things that they wanted to do. Another thing that they wanted to do was to protect the right to assemble, to demonstrate and participate or petition, as has been established under Article 37. And then another one was to address the issues promoting transparency in public finance. It goes on. But those 3, and I thought to myself, okay, this is fantastic on the face of it. But what was to stop these 3 things from happening without a pact?
Thank you. In fact, you have not said that they also want to protect the youth. They have said they want to.
I was getting there, but those 3.
You see, the thing is this. There is absolutely nothing that stops them from having all these things achieved without this MOU. In other words, is the government accountable to its promise to people? Is corruption a problem? Is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission functioning? If all these organs are functioning, do you need this MOU? No. These are excuses. These are the red herrings. The real issue is that we want to organize politically with an eye to 2027. That's the real issue. Nothing. Forget about all these things. And the other issues are to answer to critics. For example, the issue of corruption, there's a runaway corruption in this country. So when Baba goes there, he must say that I'm going there to stem corruption. What stops you from stemming it from where you are? So what makes you say that if you go there, you will actually stem the corruption? Yeah. So that will not happen. What about integrity? What about economic, whatever? Kenyans are hurting. The economy is doing badly. We all know it. So what will make it better just because Baba has gone there? He already has the cabinet secretary in treasury is already
one of his generals.
One of his generals. So why can't he just fix the economy and we see the difference? Of course, things are not good, and we all know it, and that's why the president, who had said and vowed and said all sorts of things about nusu mukate and so on, and the muganga and so on, can actually go and shake hands with the muganga. Now, it's bad when you see things, when you see people who are sworn enemies. I would imagine that when CT and I are not talking to each other, the day you see us having a handshake, be worried.
And you even say things in public about how CT is a terrible man. And CT now also says how you're a terrible man. But no sooner than. You come
be very
together.
worried, especially for the people. When you see sworn enemies coming together, it's not in your interest. No. It is not what they're telling you they want to do.
But Dr. These are politicians.
Yes.
Point and tell me politicians whom you've known who have been sworn enemies and have acted out that enmity to its logical conclusion in this country.
Precisely, it's CT. That's why I'm telling you that these are politicians. But they are politicians who have followers behind them on the basis of promises and on basis of programs they have talked about. So one is talking about the hustler, the other one is talking about Azimio and the bandwagon of integrity, Canaan, taking us to Canaan. So Canaan and hustler movements meeting together cannot be about the followers. It can only be about the interests of the politicians.
Actually, it is about the followers. It is.
Tell me.
You see, if the followers do not allow their chosen or their preferred leaders to speak on their behalf, they will not. It is because the followers, typifying our political processes, have endorsed the leaders who they have chosen and have, in so doing, endorsed the things that the leaders do on their behalf.
I wish I hope you saw that TV yesterday in Kasarani and in Kisii. The followers are angry. The followers are speaking.
Now, you see, it is precisely because of that that I've made the statement. Prior to what you have alluded to point it out, have we seen such a thing? Yes. We saw it with the sitting president. Okay? Now we saw it with the sitting president's newest handshake partner. Okay? Prior to that, had we seen it?
Yes. Let me tell you how. For a long time, the hustlers have been asking, where are we on this? And for a long time, Baba's followers have been hoping that he'll land them to Canaan. And so even when they falter a bit, they have been with him. Now that he has shown them that he has abandoned Canaan, you can see them questioning, where is this direction that you are now headed to? So there is a way in which we want also to suggest that there is a disconnect between followers and their leaders up to a point. One, and this is a typical political situation. Look at Trump and his promises, and look at Trump and his administration. So there's a way in which leaders, once they're in power, sometimes they connect and sometimes they miss to connect. In this instance, what we are saying is that, as Chinua Achebe would have told you, things are no longer at ease. And for that reason, they must clutch on straws. They must clutch on something that will then give them some kind of reprieve. So what the president has done is to make sure that he buys time. Because nikubaya, it's terrible, and therefore you better speak to your enemy, or better speak to somebody you have not bothered, you have called your enemy, in order to buy your peace.
But Martin, as well, one would ask, if you talk about the handshakes go way back to when Raila shook hands with Moi, Raila shook hands with Kibaki, Raila shook hands with Kenyatta. Raila has just shaken hands.
It goes back to immediately after independence with Kanu and Kadu. That's where it started.
That pretty much has formed the basis of the handshakes that have followed and the politics of this country pretty much. So when we see the handshake that happened Friday, one begs to ask, why is it wrong now? Why doesn't it make sense now if it has worked before?
Now, that's not the question, that why is it wrong now? This is consistent, isn't it? Mm-hmm. What we should be asking is, why have elections when you can have handshakes? Why spend billions, like we're being told IBC needs to spend billions, when we can have a handshake? Why waste time and resources and whip up tribal animosity in a country when we can have handshake? So maybe we are saying, let us look at how we get leaders. Because Raila has proved that he goes to this with a deal in mind. Get it or miss it,
but get it.
And he told us he was going to AU. Akipata, ni sawa. Akikosa, ni sawa.
There's a lot
and
to be
somehow
done.
everything is okay for him, whether he gets it or not. And somehow it has been okay, and he has proved it. That he gets it, he doesn't get it, he's able to still hang around power. Fair enough. That calls for a relook at what our elections is all about. Maybe we should adopt a different approach to elections. And I would like to suggest, actually, we should be looking at the proportional member representation, so that you take a political party to election, and once a political party is in place, it places for you the various leaders, including electing the president. That's a cheaper way of doing things, and perhaps the most realistic way of us doing things. These things we are talking about, presidential and the elections that we are talking about, are too expensive an experiment. They are not working for us. They are only dividing us. So maybe we need to relook at it. And here is where I'm saying, if we are going to revisit our constitution, let's look at our representation. Is it really working?
Who's being disillusioned here? Who's being delusional when we look at this thing? Because, again, took the nation by storm on Friday, even as we go to a break in just a bit, Dr. Oloo, but even if it's being embraced with a bit of naivety, is that the assumption is that them coming together, this 10-point agenda for this memorandum, is essentially going to solve the problems in these 10 issue areas that we see. I mean, I can tell you that I don't think it will, because are people coming together for the purpose of ensuring that the livelihoods of Kenyans are then actually ring-fenced and protected? Or are they coming together to ensure that come 2027, they already have a foot in the door? If it was actually for the care and purpose of Kenyans, I don't think anybody would have been missing. But there are certain people who are missing. And what does that mean? That they have seen themselves on the out when it comes to this political agreement.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. This has nothing to do with the Kenyans. This is about two people looking at their political future past 2027. Anything they are saying about those 10 points, red herring. Those are not the real issues. The real issues, how do we mobilize a machine that will take us beyond 2027? It's about leadership for the sake of leadership, not for the betterment of a country, not for better programs, not for better livelihoods, not for prosperity of the country. No, this is about individuals, and all they want is to perpetuate themselves.
From the jump this morning, Kenyans have been asking, so then what do? We can sit here, we can complain, we can pontificate, we can whine, but then you can shout and be angry, but then what happens after that? And maybe those are some of the things that we'll be looking into when we come back from this break. Lawyer and political analyst Dr. Martin Oloo is our guest this hour, and we're looking at, all right, post the Rila-Ruto pact, then what? It's 28 minutes to 8. We'll be back after this.
Hawa watu hakuna kitu wanataka. Hii ni watu wanapanga tu mambo ya nusu mkate, sijui wanatafuta handshake. Mimi nataka niwaambie mapema mchana, my friends, sahau mambo ya handshake. Na msituambie ya kwamba ati hamutaki handshake. We can see you, si tunawajua. Hii ukora yenu ya kila siku tunajua. Mlifanya ukora pale, Moi akawaweka kwa ile ilikuwa inaitwa sijui ilikuwa inaitwa cooperation. Mukalete fujo hapo na maandamano kidogo, mukapata nusu mkate kwa Mheshimiwa Kibaki. Mkakuja mkalete ukora hapa na maandamano kidogo, mkaweka vitisho kwa Uhuru Kenyatta, akapanga handshake. Sasa mnafikiri mnaweza kunipangia mimi ati maandamano? Ati mpate chochote kutoka kwangu? You are dreaming.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. The weather with SpiceFM.
The rain continues in Nairobi, currently at 16 degrees. It's 15 and cloudy in Nakuru and 17. And now light rain in Nyeri. Cloudy conditions continue in Eldoret at 14, while Mombasa is sunny at 27. Malindi at 27 is sunny as well. 21 and cloudy in Kisumu, with 19 and cloudy conditions in Kakamega. And we're looking at light rain showers in Kampala at 21, with cloudy conditions at 26 in Dar es Salaam. Johannesburg at 16 is sunny, while Mogadishu at 28 will be sunny through Monday, and it's partly sunny at 14 in Addis Ababa, with cloudy conditions at 28 in Lagos and 24 and clear in Kinshasa. All right, we're clicking into traffic hour this Monday morning, where most of the city is already really busy. Wherever you look, coming in from the Thika Superhighway, that started very, very busy this morning. And we're looking at that now, bumper to bumper. There's crazy traffic on the Thika Superhighway. If you're heading into town and you are on the highway, you're going to have a dollop of patience, because it's going to take you a minute to get into the CBD, and that's going really slowly. It's also starting to slow down on Kiambu Road with bumper to bumper traffic as you try to approach Muthaiga Square. So this whole axis right here, going from the Thika Superhighway, Kiambu Road, Limuru Road, Lower Kabete Spring Valley, and Wayaki Way, and then parts of James Gishuru, that whole area, very, very busy this morning. An escape route is what you need. Not quite sure that it's going to help, but the southern bypass looks pretty good. Uhuru Gardens, then touching on Langata Road, that also totally different story. It's busy on the eastern bypass. Coming off of Outer Ring, in and outbound traffic is also starting to get crazy here. So it looks like it's going to be a manic Monday. Boots up, folks, because you're going to need your straps on. Let's talk SpiceFM, Eon X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Kenya's biggest conversation continues with Dr. Martin Oloo in the hot seat this morning. And post the Rut-Rila pact that happened on Friday, I think just that we're calling it that is an extension of what it really looks like. Mm-hmm. It's not the ODM-UDA pact. We're now naming it already after individuals, aren't we? Mm-hmm. And we started off with a lot of calls, even till now, and we don't take for granted that folks who chime in on these conversations on our streams are asking, okay, so we're saying that they're not going to solve anything. The problems still exist. So the pact came about on Friday, but there's still children who don't have capitation. There's still the hospital debacle, the whole healthcare mess. There's still people who were arrested yesterday. Interestingly enough, that one of the 10-point agenda was, free protest.
Protect the youth.
Protect the youth. And that happened yesterday, Sunday. So, I mean, it's... what are we looking at here? And folks are saying, so what are the solutions?
I think Kenyans should not give up. The responsibility to run this country still belongs to Kenyans, and it belongs to us as voters, it belongs to us as media, it belongs to us as members of the legal profession. All of us have a responsibility to propagate the rule of law, to propagate, matters that will help us improve governance and so on. So these two people, Raila and Ruto, are not going to define what our collective spirit is. They have their own interests, and we must continue to say that their interests do not necessarily coincide with the Kenyans' interests. Our interest is to have social security, social welfare running. We'd like to see people accessing health. But we have seen health sector has been privatized. SHA is in private hands. We would like to see every government program really working out to improve shelter. But again, we've seen housing levy being privatized. We have even seen e-citizen, for example, the back end of it being privatized. Now, we cannot privatize a state, public apparatus and then still want to have Kenyans who are happy. Kenyans elect governments, or governments exist to make the lives of Kenyans better, the lives of its people better, and so Kenyans are looking for governments that work for them. People want their children in the universities. People want their children in schools. Today, even secondary schools will tell you they cannot keep students in schools. I mean, it cannot be that bad. So issues are there. We are flooding the market with wheat from imports. Our farmers haven't sold their wheat, haven't had their return. And we do that to maize. We give them stones for fertilizer and so on. No, it cannot be that callous. I think Kenyans deserve better. Yeah.
The calls for the longest time, and we've seen at least since the 25th of June 2024, has been that Ruto must go. That's what we've heard. And initially, I'm speaking as an individual, when I heard it the first time, I was like, okay, that's great. If somebody's not doing their job, then they should get out. But I think I've said this morning, I think that is an easy escape. I don't think that he should go. I don't think that they should. I think that you've been given responsibility by virtue of the vote, and that Kenyans have said, this is what we ask that you do. Constitutionally, this is what you're bound to do. Going just because voices have been raised is an easy escape.
I want to agree with you. Ruto should stay around, let him serve his term, let him exact so much pain on us so that we know what bad leadership is about, so we know how to vote. It's like what the Americans are feeling now. They said, they wanted Trump. They want to be have him back. They are feeling the pain. The recession is on. I think people need to feel in order for them to come up to their senses. So Ruto should not go anywhere. He should be around until the end of his term. Now, if you are serious, then take your vote and exercise it when the time comes. Let's forget about. Of course, we need to protest. We need to do whatever, but he must stay around up to 2027 so that we feel the pain and we feel the effect of making wrong decisions at the ballot.
And as well, Dr. As we talk about Ruto must go being the easiest way, it should stay there so that Kenyans feel it. But then again raises the next question, which is Kenyans in vetting, in looking at the people they're putting in the office just so they don't find themselves in such situations again. The need for Kenyans to sit down, interrogate what the Constitution says, the bodies that give the Constitution the instruments for it to work. We'll talk about the judiciary, the legislature, the executive. Kenyans to understand what this Constitution and the power that they have, just how critical is that moving forward?
I think that's one thing that we miss to see. The power to bring leaders, the power to change leaders, the power to make things work in this country is with us as voters, as citizens. How do we exercise it? How do we let it off? We let it off by dropping our guard. And when it comes to election time, we get into a frenzy and we accept any promise. And unfortunately, we haven't talked about it, we also accept money.
Yes.
And that's why this 20 million and the 100 that has been promised is a reason why the youth have said they will invade that church. It's money that is messing out our politics. It's money that is also sometimes making us miss the point. But one thing that I can tell you is people have also seen beyond the money. I think the young people, the Gen Zs, have taught us that they are aware, they have read, the other day when they were looking at the finance bill, they had read it. Right. They translated it into various languages and they were able to communicate. So there's a level of awareness now that we can go to sleep knowing that tomorrow will be different because people are increasingly becoming aware and demanding the better of their leaders.
But we can't run away from the fact that there's a lot of folks who felt as though this is formulaic in nature, that the pact would come about by the two parties and that instantly, I mean, it's really simple. You put 2 + 2, you get 4. You have 2 dots, you add 2 dots, you get 4. And I'm not just saying this, but there were actual Kenyans, human beings, who opened their mouths on Friday because, of course, as is usually the case, you do a span of the nation, and you find out what people have to say. And I bless her heart, I felt so bad that this woman, she said, now that Rut-Rila has joined Ruto, we will now be able to go to hospital, right? And I will present my SHA whatever, and now I can be treated. In the minds of many, really this is a panacea to the issues that we have faced. Ni mzuri sana wamekuja pamoja because sasa tutaona hii na hii. People believe that things will come about as a result of this pact. How do we then deal with that issue? Because people do want things to happen and happen properly.
Let's get it. Ruto and Raila have a constituency. They are followers. And their followers really believe in them. The only problem is that they are so let down so often that I don't know how long their optimism will last. It's true. Somebody must feel that actually this coming together will bring some difference. And that's okay. The problem is when they are betrayed, when that difference doesn't come, and which I can surely promise them that the difference will not come, not in the next 2 years, because after this, everything that will be being done will be on 2027. It's so shameful that we can have 5 years, do nothing with it, and start asking for another 5 years to do nothing with it. So basically what you're saying is that are people's lives going to improve because Raila and Ruto are coming together? I doubt. Do they have any program? We've said those 10 points are red herrings. They have no program whatsoever, because what we know we need to do, we are not going to do it. We know that Mbadi is going to give us even higher taxes. We know that that is not going to be what we are looking for. In fact, we are preparing ourselves for the next problem with the finance bill. So we know. Unfortunately, there are those who are hopeful, but those of us who are still skeptical and can tell that there will be nothing that will come out of it except the usual political gymnastics.
Doc, what if this merger that the two gentlemen have actually gets to give the results that they say?
Well, Dennis, I would be very happy. You know, sometimes we don't wish that everything is bad, but we hope that 5% can come out of it that will help somebody, and that would be good. What I'm saying is that we are yet to see any evidence that this rapprochement, this coming together is for the good of Kenyans. No. It's a political pact. It's about numbers. It's about 2027. And it has no serious economic agenda besides a legal agenda aimed at decimating, aimed at bastardizing the Constitution.
You know, the thing that seems to have happened in this country, which we take for granted, are these handshakes. I say for granted because our neighbors have problems that are similar to us, but they don't quite handle them the way we do. And sometimes when we look at the handshakes, amidst the really terrible problems we face, we forget to understand that perhaps they may even have a benefit. The fact that problems can be solved by people agreeing. Now, the unfortunate thing is when they agree, we do not see the changes that people hope. But it averts something worse that could also happen. Now, now, are we to understand that when the narrative of averting a terrible outcome is spoken of, that is sufficient, and that is sufficient fodder for us to sit back and put up with every other thing, which, because after that, everything else that followed has nothing pleasant about it, or nothing pleasant to speak about. The fundamentals are not met. Fundamentals. People being able to go to hospital. We've had it in this country where you could. So we're not asking for something that hasn't happened. Children actually going to school and ensuring they get into it. It's happened before.
Yeah. People eating.
Being able to afford. Afford. Telling you the prices have gone down and you can't afford to buy it is not helping you.
Yeah.
Being able to afford to eat. A situation that we've never quite seen, where industries shutting down, people losing jobs, so that less and less people are probably in a position to even pay taxes or to even just live. Now, I'm asking the question, what is the price of peace? What is our price? That is where I'm going with my question.
And I want to respond by saying that agreements are meant to work. When you're given a vote by the people to go and govern, you're meant to go and govern. Now, I don't know where anywhere the people told this UDA government or this Kenya Kwanza government that if you reach the middle, look for Raila, make a pact with him so that you can create peace. If you are a parent, you are married, you are a husband, you have a wife, it is expected that you will govern your home and you will have peace in your home. So when you go and now have a handshake with your wife, it does not mean that now all of a sudden there is now a rapprochement and there's an aversion of what. It is expected that the government functions, government delivers on the programs. It has the mandate, it has the apparatus, it has the taxes to deliver for people. It doesn't require it to go and make an agreement, a pact with anybody to deliver it. So it's an abdication.
Dr.
Yes.
When KADU and KANU formed, what was the understanding?
And this is now where we need to come back to. It was an aberration. It was a subversion of governance. For example, when KANU was first elected and Jomo Kenyatta was Prime Minister, his first interest was to abrogate that constitution so that he could be a president. And his next thing was to abolish the KADU so that he could be an imperial president. And this is our problem, that we sneak in our chieftaincy into governance as if you should be the last man standing when you are a president. Now, if you go that route, it is these bits of handshakes that took us down the road, made us change so many of the parts of the constitution, and led us to the fight for the second liberation, gave us this constitution, which is in many respects a tougher constitution and perhaps a more disliked constitution. If you asked any of these people, including Baba himself, and of course Ruto, we know he opposed the constitution, but if you ask all these people, this constitution is too hard for them. Why? It makes life a little bit difficult for them to manipulate and for them to swing us around. So yes, this handshake thing does not necessarily go to the root of governance. It simply subverts.
Can we stick on the handshake just for a little bit? I'm going to bounce this off of a comment that Dave Luther has made here, because quite some robust activity going on our socials this morning. But the question is, in the last 4 administrations, of course 2 of them being held by the same gentleman, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, President Uhuru Kenyatta, that there have been handshakes. There was a handshake with Kibaki. There was a handshake in Uhuru 1, more or less. There was a handshake in Uhuru 2. Now we're seeing another handshake. And they were all essentially to quell a number of things, whether we want to look at them, most notorious being 2007, that was brokered by Kofi Annan. And then after that, and Benjamin Kappa. But then after that, we saw that it happened over and over again. And there were certain things happening in country at the time that the handshake, or the pact, as it were, was to be seen to then quell or to sort out and allow the country to move forward. The question is, in all 4 occurrences, or let's take 3 because this is the 4th one, in the 3 previous ones, did the pacts or did the handshakes essentially achieve what they were designed to or believed to in the beginning?
Let's look at 2007. The reason why there was necessity for a coalition agreement, thanks to the late Kofi Annan and others, was the perception, and perhaps correctly so, that the 2007 results had been rigged in favor of Mwai Kibaki. So the level of volatility was so high, and the necessity to have a middle ground was necessary. And perhaps the national dialogue that came out of that process allowed us to come to a point where we got the 2010 constitution. Yes, there's a result.
Yes.
And yes, there was a circumstance.
Okay.
Beyond that, after 2018, was there any other reason? Maybe what I want to say is that are our elections free and fair? Do we have interferences around elections that makes it impossible for anybody who then purports to win actually govern a country? If that's the problem, let's fix it. Let's go and tell ourselves that it's our stealing of elections that's our problem.
But that isn't the problem. What you've just described is a symptom. The elections that we speak of, that is in the limelight, and the one everybody thinks about is the national elections. The very problems we talk about with regard to the national elections, we see in party elections.
Yes.
The very problem we see in any other political machinations that we see. because the complaints are the same. So, we are a people who are given to fraudulent ways. So, all we do is practice it at every level until we get to the very highest level. So, who is the person who's going to cast the first stone when it comes to this? Because the political class, by their very existence, seem determined that everything that we are taught and know to be wrong, they spend 5 years of that electoral cycle convincing us that this wrong is actually right. That's what they seem to try to convince us. And if it isn't working, because they have the might, something within the constitution will be tinkered with to give it the sort of feels that it isn't too harmful to them. But we put up with it. I'm going back to what I asked earlier on. You see, the problem is clear. We are unwilling to understand that the very thing you've been saying since you came here, many of these things are not for our benefit or for our interest. We have refused to accept it, even when it is staring at you in the face. And so long as we refuse to accept it, then those who perpetrate these ills on our behalf will continue to do so.
And I want to agree with you, CT, particularly when you said that we do not have a culture of integrity around elections. Whether it's a cattle dip, whether it is a teachers' union, whether it is an MCA, whether it's a church, yes, whether maybe I've not heard that the mosques and the other imams have been put there, you know. But you see, the way we do our things, especially around even the elections of bishops and whatnot, it is. We have not talked about tribalism here. It's about tribalism, and it's also about a lack of integrity. So I agree with you. If we don't want elections stolen, we will not participate in taking bribes and in compromising. You know. So because we are that way, and that's why, for example, I've said, let Ruto run his term up to the end of 5 years. If we are serious, then the ballot will say we were serious. But if we are not serious, let's not even say he must go.
So, Daktari, what I hear you say pretty much is throwing this ball back to the Mwananchi, in the sense that the powers that the individuals in office have today is because our vote put them there. It therefore behoves upon us to make the right choices, to interrogate our constitution, and most importantly, to not give power to the ills that bedevil us every electioneering year.
Absolutely. We have not said what some of the NADCO thing wants to. NADCO wants to constitutionalize the CDF fund. It wants to institutionalize the Senate, something for senators. It wants to constitutionalize something for women representatives.
And MCs.
These are public resources that you want to give to people to walk around bribing you and telling you they have done it for you. These are public resources. Now, those kind of things will not help us. What we really need to do is to agree that if this country is going to develop, then we will pay taxes, and we will be expecting that our taxes are put to good use. But for now, as long as we want to be bribed to be to give our vote, as long as the church needs to be bribed 20 million and on top of it another 100 million in order for it to lend its support to political leaders, we are not about to get there.
When the church accepts to be bribed, you see, if you don't accept, you can't be bribed.
You can't be bribed. There's an acceptance that took place.
You can't be bribed.
There are very many thoughts, emotions at this point that are going on in the minds of people. It's 2025 and we're getting through Q1 already, and we're getting into, forget about 2026. Once it's done, we're full throttle into electioneering, and Kenyans are already asking themselves the questions. There's civic education that's going on in some places. There are people who are finding a voice. There are people who are wondering what this pact is about, if it's going to yield anything. What are we saying to Kenyans? People are saying, well, don't lament all the time, look for a solution. Although lamentation sometimes actually gives rise to something, you know. But what would be the message to Kenya today, where you're saying, sure, we can see there's so many things that are not going on, right? Yes, there's a pact or not. But what's one thing that we must hold fast to? What would be your message to Kenyans today?
My message to Kenyans is that, yes, I know the book of Lamentations is there in the Bible, but so is the Song of Songs there, the Song of Solomon, and so is Revelation. There are a number of things we need to do. What are our eyes going to see? we cannot be lamenting without seeing what God is revealing to us. We have this pact now that should spark our interest to a point where if these people are only uniting because of 2027, let us also unite to say that as we've united, we will also unite and we'll show you how not to do things. The only thing here is, what is the alternative? And therefore, there must be other alternatives. And there are people who are saying they can offer alternatives. Whether they mean business or not, again, Kenyans are asking them, and do you have money? Yeah. How much money do you have to run a campaign? The day, and maybe this is part of our problem, City and Lo and Dennis, we have allowed rich people and illicit money to run campaigns. And so what do people do? They will corrupt as long as they want money for elections. They will print money, wash, as long as they have money for elections. They will engage in illicit trades and so on to get money for, so that when it comes to elections, the very fellows who should be behind bars are the ones running for elections and holding office. Now, who will keep the law? The law is already in the wrong hands. So we also need to agree that we cannot do things the same way and expect different results. So time has come for Kenyans to take responsibility into their hands. I can tell you that unless you become wiser and unless you see your interests, do not expect that I, or indeed CT here, will come and tell you that he means so well for you that you can go to sleep as he works for you. Forget it.
Not gonna happen.
I also have my interests. CT has his interests. What about you as a Kenyan, as a citizen? What are your interests? How are you going to protect those interests? How are you going to ensure that you get the people who can deliver on your interests?
Those are the questions to go away thinking about this Monday morning, and a good conversation for us to have started the day and the week indeed off with. Lawyer and political analyst Dr. Martin Oloo has been our guest this hour. Thank you for gracing the hot seat with your presence this morning. Conversations continue after this, folks. Good morning. It is 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the news wire. I'm Lea. Ubaga police officer shot and killed his colleague and injured another one in an altercation at a bar in Gigiri, Nairobi last night. The three were among a group in a bar at Gigiri police lines when they disagreed. The assailant officer, attached to Parliament, reached out to his pistol and fired shots at his colleagues, killing one. A second officer sustained wounds and was rushed to hospital in serious condition. Witnesses said the group was having food and drinks when the altercation broke out, leading to the shooting. Principal Secretary, State Department for Citizen Services, Julius Bitok, says his ministry can now produce more than 1 million passports per year. Bitok, however, mentioned that over 70,000 passports remain uncollected as he asked the applicants to collect their passports. He encouraged the youth to apply for the vital document to enable them to secure foreign available job opportunities as part of the government's efforts to address unemployment. Now, a week after President William Ruto pledged to donate 20 million shillings to build the Jesus Winner Ministry Roysambu Church, angry youth yesterday protested, demanding answers as to why Bishop Edward Mwai accepted the donation. Yesterday afternoon, police confronted protesters who had gathered at the church, disrupting traffic on Committee Road. More than 38 protesters were arrested in the incident but have been released.
Wale vijana walikuwa wamesema wanakam kuoccupy, hawaja kuja. Mungu amefanya kitu.
We started our service at 6. Maybe that was the difference. We already started at 7 and we started our service today at 6.
We normally finish our service at around 12 a.m. but 12 sharp, sorry. But today we finished our service until around, that was 10:20.
Due to the chaos, Citizen TV reporter Mulindi Kare also got into trouble.
Nimepigwa pale ndani, nimeingizwa pale ndani, nimepigwa. Ni maafisa wa polisi. Ndani ya kanisa, kwa compound ya kanisa pale ndani. Mahali wamefungiwa, kuna vijana wengine pia wamefungiwa pale ndani.
This comes as the president donated another 14 million shillings to the AIC Kesses Church in Uasin Gishu County. Now, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has now raised allegations that the government has sold the Bomas of Kenya to a Turkish national, saying the cabinet has already approved the move. According to Gachagua, the government has done so even after the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority opposed the sale of the historic building.
Bomas of Kenya imeuziwa Mturuki. Bomas of Kenya imeuziwa Mturuki ambaye ni business partner ya mtu mkubwa sana katika hii serikali. Mnamjua? Watu ya civil aviation walipinga. Wakasema the flight path to Wilson Airport ni hapo, hiyo ndio flight path. It will be dangerous.
He has also raised other claims of the sale of all prison farms.
Mashamba yote ya jela yote imeuzwa. Jela zote zinatakiwa zihamishwe, hiyo mashamba imeuzwa yote. Mpaka makanisa ya Catholic, SDA ile iko ndani ya jela yote itabomolewa.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Umaga.
.5 Spice FM Kisumu.
Hawa watu hakuna kitu wanataka. Hii ni watu wanapanga tu mambo ya nusu mkate, sijui wanatafuta handshake. Mimi nataka niwaambie mapema mchana, my friends, sahau mambo ya handshake. Na msituambie ya kwamba ati hamutaki handshake. We can see you, si tunawajua. Hii ukora yenu ya kila siku tunajua. Mulifanya ukora pale, Moi akawaweka kwa ile ilikuwa inaitwa sijui ilikuwa inaitwa cooperation. Mukalete fujo hapo na maandamano kidogo, mukapata nusu mkate kwa Mheshimiwa Kibaki. Mukakuja mukalete ukora hapa na maandamano kidogo, mukaweka vitisho kwa Uhuru Kenyatta, akapanga handshake. Sasa mnafikiri mnaweza kunipangia mimi ati maandamano? Ati mupate chochote kutoka kwangu? You are dreaming.
It is a very busy morning with traffic this morning, and we're looking at quite some of that coming off of the Thika Superhighway. That's been there for at least an hour or so, and it's starting to build up even more. Also coming off of the Eastern Bypass from from Utawala out towards North Airport Road, with traffic coming off of Outer Ring. That whole area very busy. Some of that traffic comes off of Manyanja Road, crosses over Outer Ring, going then towards Jogo Road. And there is quite some traffic on Ombaso Road this morning, and that's heading in from just past the interchange going towards the Likoni interchange essentially, and there's heavy traffic then as you touch on the Nyaya Stadium roundabout. So that's still doing the thing there. Langata Road very, very busy, and traffic coming out of the west, the whole Westlands area busy as well. So we are in traffic hour, and it is proper this morning. So we're going to keep an eye on all of this and see how it opens up, and we all do this in an attempt to keep things moving. Let's talk to each other and keep it just that. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
6 minutes after 8 o'clock into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Monday. It's a wet and rainy one, but getting into new seasons. It seems that new things happen, and then there's an opportunity at new life. But some things, no matter how much, just don't change, and they remain the same. It's around some of those conversations that we are having this morning. It's Ndu CT and Dennis with you today. And as we look at some of those matters, joining us shortly will be the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, Jeremiah Kioni. He'll join us in a short while as he makes his way here. He says he's been in some traffic, but we'll wait and see how that opens up. So there are very many conversations, and the issue around solutions. And before we even get to have that conversation with Jeremiah, the solution question is one that rings this morning. It's rung for a while. And other people, because they are the ones in the majority when we're talking about nations. The people who make the law, the people who interpret the law, the people who execute the law are in the minority. When that comes to leadership, they are in the minority, a stark minority. And usually when things go right, you usually don't have a problem. People are at a lull, right? When things go wrong, and as they would do every now and then, and they just keep compounding, and the snowball gets larger and larger as it goes down the hill, folks say, don't complain so much. Don't be so negative. Don't be so pessimistic, but that you should have hope, and that you should not just complain, but that you should look towards the solutions and what those are. Are people helpless when it comes to solutions, things that you can actually do? Are the people to blame when it seems as though you are helpless and that there's nothing that you can do? And so I heard somebody say on Saturday, so what was I supposed to do? Was I supposed to show up at KICC and tell these guys, absolutely not, you guys are joking? Would that have been a solution? So when we talk about look for the solution, say what the solutions are, what are some of those things that we say you must then do?
How do you tell the difference between someone being helpless and them being reluctant to take action? How?
What does reluctance look like?
Something that admittedly you could do if you wanted to, but you don't. Now you could give helplessness as a reason and say, I don't think there'll be any change. I had a conversation with my Uber driver, as I do every morning.
Yeah.
And I asked him what his take was. And he told me people are angry. I said, actually, let me repeat my question again. Are you angry? He said, yes. I said, why are you angry? And he said, I'm angry because I have a child who completed university, and I was looking at the money I paid. It was less than 200,000 for the 4 years the child was in university. And I have another child in university, and it appears like within 18 months, I'm going to spend the same amount of money. And the business that I'm in, I'm looking at it and I'm looking at what it is that we're doing. I am unable, so I'm angry. I said, okay. And so now that you're angry, what are you going to do with your anger? He said, what? I don't understand. I said, you're angry, okay. Do you feel good that you're angry? Do you feel good that you're upset? He said, no. I said, don't you think it would be perhaps worth your while to consider what it is you ought to do, even with that anger, where you ought to direct it, some that will be productive and some that will be useful? He told me, I don't expect anything to change. I said, so then why are you angry? Because if you got into a point where you don't expect anything to change, then what are you angry about?
There's nothing left, essentially.
Yes, so what are you angry about? Anyway, this conversation, we said we will continue, okay? But I'm asking the same question. People lament and complain and pitch a fit because they feel that is their contribution to trying to solve the problem or to having their views known about the problem, okay? And having done that, they've done their bit.
I think so. I really do think that there is a place for this lamentation.
Yes.
I think that there is a place for this vexed spirit to come out. And whether it seems like it's forever pessimistic, or whether it's contrived negativity, whatever the case may be, I think that there is a place for somebody to open their mouth and say, you know what, I'm actually not happy with this thing. I mean, I keep likening it to a baby, and it could be rudimentary in terms of its explanation. But if a child is upset over something, that child will cry and cry and cry until what? Until you either feed it, change it, carry it, something.
You pay attention,
you do something.
And figure out what that, yes.
Exactly. At that point, how else will that child... and they're not helpless. That is the mechanism that they have. That is the thing that they have that is going to grab your attention. They will complain. If you don't do anything about it, they will up the decibels a notch. They will cry. And then in some cases, they will even get sick. They will get to fever pitch until you do something about it. But they're not going to give you any rest. They might lull for a minute because they get exhausted from crying. But guess what? If that issue still persists, they will still wake up and cry till you do something about it.
Yeah, so there is my Buddha guy called Steve Okanda. We were having a discussion yesterday. And I asked Steve, whatever happened on Friday, what's your take? Do you think that Raila Odinga has let you down? And he was like, no, Raila has not let me down. What is done is what we expected. The only thing that remains right now is how do we make sure that the things they've agreed upon with William Ruto will come to pass. For him, he says, it is not about complaining right now because whether we like it or not, it has happened. How to move forward after that agreement is what is important.
You see, sometimes you get stuck in your complaining. And in getting stuck, you look for more things to complain about.
Yeah.
And as I said, there's some joy, no matter how bizarre, that one derives from complaining.
There's a feel-good factor in it.
Yes, there is.
Yes, yeah.
There is, and especially if you're the group of people and you're all lamenting about the same thing. So this one
Misery
laments,
loves company.
then hands it over to the next person. They lament. You do that for half an hour. You leave there feeling you've actually done something. But the thing that I find good about it and why I agree with you, when we are able to actually vocalize what it is we think is the problem, we have taken a massive step.
Absolutely.
You can even itemize it and say it is this and this and this and this and this. You're actually freeing your mind to understanding the problem you have. Once you understand it, then it's not difficult to figure out how it is you ended up there and who it is who is causing this pain point. The next step would be, now what do we do about so that this pain stops paining?
Yes.
See? It is progress. It is progression. There are countries where you cannot lament like this. You lament at your own risk, literally.
Where? If you live to lament again.
I like how you point it like this.
Yeah. If you live to lament again.
This is where?
Yeah. You can be disappeared. That's the truth.
Where?
Yeah.
In some countries, you won't disappear. But my friend, you and the snake will be comparing it in notes on how you got beaten. The simple thing is this.
Yes.
Dissent, as we call it, is often not tolerated. On this continent, probably more, the Asian continent compete with us, some parts of it. But political leadership in this continent are very, 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 very loath to be told something that is contrary to what they would like to hear. And part of the reason is because in their hearts they know they're doing wrong.
Yes. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it.
And they know they shouldn't do it, but they're doing it anyway. And that's why there's a need to constantly hear people saying that you're doing the right thing. And anyone who says this is not the right thing, that person is immediately an instant enemy.
I actually look forward to a day when Kenyans will be saying that we gave you the mandate and we see you deliver to us and we clap for you and tell you that you have delivered to us. Because for a very long time, it's sad to say that Kenyans have complained about them not getting their end of the bargain. And as much as dissent is being looked as though you're not speaking the language that should be heard, it is important and it has its place even in our constitution. All that matters is, like Siti has said, it is not about just lamenting and leaving it there. It's how do we progress these lamentations so that we get the results that we need. I think for me is how do we progress the complaints to get the results that we need. Because whether like it or not, the two individuals will get it. They will get it proper.
You know, I would take a leaf from that particular book of yours and say, let's start with the more difficult thing.
Yes.
Lamenting is easy, and pointing fingers at political leaders even easier because people talk about leaving breadcrumbs. These guys leave loaves of bread. Even if you wanted to miss it, you can't miss. The misdeeds are in your face.
Sadly, but it's right there. You don't have to go for
What we can control, though, is our participation in all these things that we don't like. First of all, by admitting that actually we do participate, because we pretend as though we don't, and yet we do. If you limit your participation, you know what you've done? You have eliminated the power that these individuals will have over you. If, for instance, I refuse to be bribed, then you can't influence me the way you want.
Yes.
I've taken back the power. And I can tell you, look, this is what we'd like you to do. When you take that bribe, you have now sold over your power, and the strength you had to even bring about change is diminished because that person can talk back at you and say, did I not give you money? What do you think the money was for? So, everyone has a part they can play, and it's usually at the very, very basic level. I used to ask some young men I knew when I worked in Oloo Nyanza. This 50 bob that you're given, what can you do with it exactly? So what? This 50 bob.
Yeah, I've asked you.
What do you do with the 50 bob? They talked around it. I said, so is it worth your while? Because you take the 50 bob, look at what it is you do for the 50 bob. Is it worth 50 bob?
Or if you were to look at the converse, to say that you actually did an interrogation of the individual who did or didn't give you the 50 shillings and what they would or would not do if you put them in a position of leadership, that there are some things that then you wouldn't have to look for that 50 shillings, that there would be programs put in place to ensure that your livelihoods are protected, that you would then have a conducive environment through which you're able to do business, that you could go to school and not have to pay an arm and a leg literally to do it, that your sick would be able to be taken care of in hospital. You see, unfortunately, that's what civic education does, that a lot of people are trying to throttle. That an uneducated, informed citizenry is actually a threat to mediocre power,
Preach.
It is a threat because people understand that, if these people know, the likelihood of them allowing me to get away with murder then decreases significantly. That people know that if you are educated, if you are informed, if you know what is supposed to be the case, half of these people that you put into positions of power, you wouldn't. So here you are saying this 50 shillings that you're giving me, if you interrogated it and say, actually, hang on a minute, 50 shillings could get me a meal, and by the end of the day, the thing is done. Even the energy that I would expend from it, I'm done. All right? Today, maybe it wouldn't get you so much. But if you look at 50 shillings and you compare it to what could actually come about if you had proper sound leadership in place, it's incomparable. And I would dare say that those who give the 50 shillings thrive on the knowledge that the recipient of the 50 shillings is none the wiser.
And again, right now, the heat that our leaders are facing right now is due to the fact that the population that there is, people they can Google that constitution and read it and tell you, I think you're lying to us. And the threat that our leadership face right now is they do not know how to deal with a population that can read, that understand you're lying, and that they can tell it to your face. That is why dissent is considered to be oppositional power. Reason why security forces will be deployed to deal with you accordingly. Because even yesterday, what the Gen Zs or the young people were doing outside that church, they were just communicating, telling them, you have let us down.
Were they damaging property?
They were not damaging property. They were actually outside on the roads just chanting.
Were they obstructing traffic?
At some point, yes. And that's when police got in and lobbed tear gas. But that notwithstanding, they are communicating, saying, you have agreed to be bribed, something that we are fighting against. And this is a place or a room that politicians find themselves in, that they do not know how to deal with it, because the population is learned. They know what is good or bad. The only sad thing, though, is that the population, when they go to vote, still take the 50 bob and make the wrong choices.
You know, the thing that I find deplorable is not the 50 bob, the taking or the giving of it, but the depths to which one sinks to the point where you are willing to sell for that paltry sum the one right that you are given by our constitution to actually make the change that brings about benefit to you.
The change you're fighting for.
The thing that will bring about what Du has so elaborately stated. You decide that it is worth 50 bob. I'm told it's going to 200 bob. Even if it's 500 bob.
Even if it's 1,000.
Yes. Okay. So it means that there's a gap. And at some level, why I'm saying this is, I get the impression that the ordinary citizen has at some point given up. It's like, whatever will happen, will happen. And yet, there is a population of young people in this country who have clearly not given up.
Yes.
If anything, they're just beginning. Because when people protest, you will know that next time somebody receives money, you can expect that the protest will be loud. And you will be called out. Now, the thing that we haven't brokered or arrived at a clear understanding about is, how does this reflect in our lives. When we're a group of people, it works because there's a commonality of understanding that we are now progressing. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because come election time, our habits of bribery, the same habits will not have gone away until the purported or the leadership that intends to present themselves understand it won't work. If there's nothing that indicates that it won't work, they will do exactly the same things that they have done.
See, elections in this country is really, really expensive. And it's pretty much expensive because politicians know they will have to bribe for them to get there. You know, if you look at other jurisdictions, politicians fundraise for them to go campaign and whatnot. Here, you don't know the source of that money that you're being given. But when these people get there, that's when you see helicopters being bought and 19 helicopters in a football game on a day and the participants being given 15,000 shillings.
Which comes first? And I'll ask it this way. Which comes first? The desire that a politician feels that not worth their mettle, and so they need to give a little bit of something to egg folks on to give them their vote, or that people are the ones who say to politicians, well, if you want our vote, you're going to have to give me something. Which do you think came first?
I know what came first.
Please.
Because I witnessed it. In the time of the late President Moi's government, is when we had Harambes take on a completely new meaning.
Yes.
In the Kenyatta era, there were Harambes, but Harambes were, like village gatherings. They were a cottage industry. In the Moi era, they became bigger. And the result of these Harambes was seen. Schools got built, churches got built. We saw it. But we also saw huge amounts of money that had hitherto not been heard of being given for these Harambes. That was Harambe, and you actually saw what was being done with the money. You actually saw it. But then came the normal and ordinary process of electioneering, giving your campaigners some money so that they can move around with. And then came in multi-partyism. Okay? Two things happened. One, prior to that, what would happen is we didn't have laws that prohibited you as to what amount you could give.
Right.
No. So a lot of the money was supposed to be for the campaigns, but was also to influence people who, what we now call influencers, who had people who could support them. It was at that level.
Yeah.
Where one saw a huge leap of it was when multi-partyism came in, and we saw the likes of Kenneth Matiba coming in to the campaign. That's when one saw the sort of money is being spent, money that had never been witnessed in any electioneering. But with multi-partyism came something interesting. And this I saw in Luo Nyanza.
Yeah.
People who belonged to parties that the government did not like were prohibited from having, see the sort of meetings that people have in the parks and what have you.
Yes.
They were banned. So you couldn't meet. So people would go to funerals.
And meet there.
Well, a funeral is a public place.
And there's
they would
people
send the
there.
message.
Yeah.
Now, money that had been given up to that point was voluntary. Somebody would give money for the purpose I'd explained. Then the opposition decided to explain and told the people, there's something you need to understand. This money that people give you, it is your money. And they gave it a term, they call it taxpayer. Payer. I'm using the term they used. And they are Kanu people. When they come to give you money, it's the taxes that you've paid that they've taken and they're giving it back to you. So take the money.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's where I saw people anticipating and expecting that it is okay. Before the purposes were clear, bribery wasn't out in the open and running around. It then got to a point where people would accept the money. Before, they would reject the money. The message of accepting the money would not have borne any fruit if that was already happening. It was something new. Accept the money that you're being given. Essentially, money being given for electioneering purposes were akin to being a Kanu supporter.
Yeah.
And that was the party that the people in that region I spoke of were working against. So all it did was, with the time, it gathered its own momentum. And then it became the norm.
metamorphosized.
Yes, and then just grew. And with every election, people spent more and more money. And then something else happened. MPs started being paid more money. Before, the MPs didn't have money.
So there was more cash to dole out.
Yeah.
No, they started being paid more money.
Yeah.
Before, nobody really bothered with them because they also knew these guys don't have money.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, what we see now, that has morphed into money for MCAs, money, the equivalent of CDF, of course, money for senators, money is for women rep. It is the metamorphosization of the process until we've gotten there. Now, all these monies, CDF has brought about many changes that we have seen. But then the argument is, so long as you have the political leaders in charge of it, it amounts to being a slush fund. So what have you done? You've legalized a process of ensuring that any elected leader will have more money than their salary to dole out as they see fit. Because if you're influencing development, it means you have the means to enforce certain things and you have the means to change certain things because of the might you now wield through the purse. Yes.
And those are some of the things that we look at. Sioni Kioni is what somebody is saying this morning because he was supposed to be here at 8 o'clock, and that one we're going to have to talk about because, it's happened a number of times. Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni is supposed to be here at 8 o'clock. It would appear that he's still on his way. So we're going to continue that conversation. Hopefully when we come back from the break, he would have joined us to look at now what, opposition politics are saying, of course, in line with what has happened over the last couple of days. But we've been looking at that solution-oriented conversation where folks are saying, okay, so then what do you do when at the top of it, it doesn't look as though you as the people have a choice? Well, one thing that we can say off the kicker, be informed, stay informed, and open your mouth when it comes to certain things that you see happening which are off color. So it's just 1, 2, 3, and that's where it starts. Kenya's biggest conversation takes a break to look at weather and traffic. We'll be back after this. It's 8:29.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Light rain continues across Nairobi, going to highs of 25 and lows of 15. Today it's 16 and cloudy in Nakuru and 17 and rainy in Nyeri. Eldoret is cloudy at 16, while at 28 it's partly sunny in Mombasa, 28 and partly sunny in Malindi as well. It's cloudy at 21 in Kisumu, going to highs of 27, while now it's raining in Kakamega at 19 and we'll see highs of 26. Kampala raining at 22 with highs of 27, while it's cloudy, beckoning rain in Dar es Salaam at 27. It's a sunny morning at 17 in Johannesburg, and into Mogadishu at 30 it is sunny with 15 and sunny conditions in Addis Ababa, going to highs of 25. It's partly cloudy at 28 in Lagos, and in a sunny Kinshasa at 24 we'll see highs.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
Indeed, the city is a maze of traffic this morning. It doesn't really matter where you look. Coming off of Magadi Road, heading towards Langata Road and then into the city, busy. Coming off Ngong Road, Naivasha Road on one side and the Greater Ngong Road on the other side, coming in from Karen, busy. On Mombasa Road, as you head in just past that turn off going towards South Sea, even beyond that, next gen. Traffic is bumper to bumper all the way through into the city this morning. Uhuru Highway is an absolute mess. Also looking at traffic coming off the Eastern Bypass, bumper to bumper and another bumper. It's the 7th circle of hell is what folks are calling it this morning. Coming off of Outer Ring, it's also very, very busy. And traffic coming off of Manyanja Road, touching on Jago Road today, doing the thing as well. The Thika Superhighway from the jump has been busy and it's coming in heavy from Githurai through towards Survey. So it looks as though folks are going to be sitting in traffic for a while this morning. You're going to have to have your wits about and sit through it. Let's look for alternate routes and talk to each other. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Hawa watu hakuna kitu wanataka. Hii ni watu wanapanga tu mambo ya nusu mkate, sijui wanatafuta handshake. Mimi nataka niwaambie mapema mchana, my friends, sahau mambo ya handshake. Na msituambie ya kwamba ati hamutaki handshake. We can see you, si tunawajua. Hii ukora yenu ya kila siku tunajua. Mlifanya ukora pale, Moi akawaweka kwa ile ilikuwa inaitwa sijui ilikuwa inaitwa cooperation. Mukalete fujo hapo na maandamano kidogo, mukapata nusu mkate kwa Mheshimiwa Kibaki. Mukakuja mkalete ukora hapa na maandamano kidogo, mukaweka vitisho kwa Uhuru Kenyatta, akapanga handshake. Sasa mnafikiri mnaweza kunipangia mimi ati maandamano? Ati mupate chochote kutoka kwangu? You are dreaming.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It is 27 minutes to the top of the hour, and indeed, hata sisi hatuoni kioni, and it continues like that. And it was an opportunity to have a conversation with him about what the opposition looks like. And so I guess traffic is doing a doozy this morning, but let's wait and see what happens. In the meantime, still important for us to have some of the conversations that we are having around. So now, what does this mean? When we look at situations whereby, if we're going to look at this 10-point agenda, just as an example, and where folks are looking at, what can we actually do? When we see things like corruption, which is one thing that's being called out on, when we see things like, people being disappeared and abductions happening, when we see things like corruption taking place at the county level, is it the purview of just those who are in a position of leadership to stop it? Because people are actually, and this is a practical question that we're asking this morning. So what am I supposed to do? I see this happening. What am I supposed to do? Frog march somebody or walk into the governor's office? Am I supposed to write a letter? Do I send an email? Do I send something by pigeon post? What am I supposed to do? When I see something like that going wrong, do I sit here and say, well, okay, guys, I was in a particular office and this is what I saw? Do I make it known? How do we participate in this thing that we often reserve the right to complain about because we're not in positions of power? How do you actually contribute to it to make a difference? What do you do? What do you really do?
In a queue, and somebody walks out of nowhere and just goes to the front of the queue.
Yeah, the daughter of Engineer Okoh will not agree. Me, Ndu, will not agree. I will ask you if you did not see the rest of us.
Yes.
Who are
I remember
standing there.
when we were getting the vaccinations for COVID.
Yeah. We were together, I believe.
Yes, we were.
We were at the Bagavi place.
Yes, and there were individuals. I remember two individuals who decided to sort of like jump ahead of the queue. And I was hoping that the medical practitioner who was doing the needful
do something about it. Yeah.
No, but there's a lady who was in front of me. Occasionally, lady asked, the rest of us are queuing, why do you feel that you're the one who must go ahead of everybody? And the person stopped. You know what occurred to me? It's like they hadn't thought through what they were doing because they stopped and looked surprised. Looked very surprised. Nobody else in the queue said a thing. When we left that was the registration. We went now to get the vaccination. He did the same thing again. This time I'm the one who asked him. I asked him, why do you think that your issue is of greater importance than the rest of us and everybody else is waiting their turn? He said, no, I came with my father. He's an elderly gentleman. I said, can we see your father? It was an elderly gentleman. That guy was older than me, which makes him really old. Okay? I said, had you said so, we would easily have let the gentleman get his vaccination.
Yes.
Yeah, but what about me? I said, no, you not you. Him. Yes.
Him, yes. You queue.
You queue like everybody else.
Yes. And you actually take me back to something that happened when I was going to Brussels. So we are queuing immigration, Brussels airport. And there's this gentleman who equally just decides to walk straight all the way. And people complained. You know what happened by the time we got to immigration? He was stopped. He was taken to a room. He was deported back. Yes.
For jumping the queue?
For jumping the queue.
Surely there must have been something else. Can you imagine that now?
Me jumping the queue is good enough for me.
Come on. No, but this is the thing. Imagine my response to that. I was like, come on, how can you deport somebody for jumping the queue? But look at how seriously folks take things that we have gotten to the point whereby it has glossed over. It's like it's like no big deal. Please.
But it is jumping the queue that led to him being...
He was noticed.
You know? He was noticed.
And when does the guy think? I was in Kitale a while back last year, and I went to a bank. There's this premier section where you're supposed to get preferential treatment. So I was sitting waiting my turn. Somebody came, a young lady came well after me, When the person was the teller left, she just walked up. The teller told her, please go back.
Yes.
I was watching. Just go back. That gentleman has been sitting there waiting. Please go back. Again, I saw the surprise. What I'm trying to say is, we've internalized doing things that make us happy without thinking of other people or the consequences.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's not as though these people mean to be offensive. They just figure, oh, well, since I could just, why don't I just walk ahead? And there's a mindset that we have acquired over time that prevents us from doing things that we ought to do.
Yes. You can imagine a situation where the president went to that church, gave 20 million shillings, and that pastor said, Mr. President, thank you for this donation, but please tell us the source. Until you can come with clean papers, we don't need your money.
You're right. And just even as you say that, so yesterday, just watching the news yesterday, and I saw this other church where a number of politicians were yesterday, and then, immediate former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was there as well. And this was a church service. Yes. It was not a ceremony for something else at 12 in the. It was in the morning. There was a service taking place, and I thought to myself, surely these pastors and deacons had planned for this service. If it was a morning service, 8 o'clock to 10, and then, you have the other one from 10 to 12, whatever. You planned for a service, you have your thing, what you're supposed to be doing normally. Do you plan for this 1 hour that politicians have come here to talk about, I don't know what is going on here? Do you plan for that as well? And I looked, and then I now ignored the politicians on the microphone, and I looked at the row of pastors behind them, and they sat there, most of them in this stance with their hands on their chins, just waiting. And I said, what could have possibly happened? What could have been done? What was the agreement for them to sit back and allow something like that to happen, where people have come to feed off of something for the week, whatever? But then what could have happened whereby you sit and allow that kind of thing to go on? Because whatever those politicians were talking about had nothing to do with the sermon of the day, with nothing to do with the reading. So I said, what must have happened for that to take place? Did money change hands? But then we're just keeping quiet because, okay, so long as we don't say it doesn't mean it's happening. Have we gotten to the point where we accommodate anything and have made it so normal? Just when you talked about this incident in the airport, and I think to myself, I was like, oh my God, even I have said that these things have become so normalized that when you see something that would be a drastic action, you're thinking, hold on a minute. Why so drastic? Why deport a man because he jumped the queue? Now, can you imagine what it would look like if things worked in the way in which they ought to? And that we are serious about calling people and ourselves out. That we've become so comfortable with the status quo that when somebody were to reprimand somebody else for doing something, you're almost asking, why so harsh?
Not why, but we do that.
How dare you even call that?
But we do that. We do that. We read the papers. Somebody has been jailed for 10 years because he stole $1 million. You're saying, but surely he only stole $1 million. And you think, what do you mean he only stole
After all, the
$1 million?
people who stole more.
Yes. That conversation lends itself to the very thing we're saying. You have over time eroded your own moral position to the point where you're actually wishy-washy. Anything goes.
And our moral has just gotten so bad because I have many examples. The other day I'm at GPO. There's this footpath that is opposite that toilet that is there. So I'm standing there, I'm waiting for taxi. Then a police officer manning the building walks there and tells me to walk. Toka paenda. And I'm like, why should I? This is a public space. This is a public building. You want me to go and go where? The police got shocked. Why am I talking back? Why am I responding? Then he asks, so this place is only public to you and not everyone else? And I told him, I have every right to be here.
To stand here.
This is a public space. I am not doing anything that is threatening your work. Kindly focus on what you're doing. The police walked away, came back with his boss. And I told the boss, I am here legally. I am not breaking any law. This is a public space.
There's nothing that prohibits you from standing where you're standing.
What you're doing is actually breaking the law. Take me to court and I'll argue it in court. The police walked away. If we keep on standing our ground and doing the right thing, everybody else will get into this space. Be it the president, the police, they will get into this space of doing the right thing. But if we keep on accepting the wrong things being done, we're not moving.
You know what is the problem is? You find a subversion of duties. His job is actually to protect the public.
Yes.
But he seems to feel that he's only doing his job if he's harassing the public. How did that twist come in? Somebody is protesting and using legal means to protest. It's called picketing.
Yeah.
And you decide this picketing is against the law. You first of all lobby tear gas, and then anybody runs in your direction, you thump the living daylights out of them. You're supposed to be there to protect them.
Yeah.
But here you are, it's like you're looking for the moment when you can beat someone.
Yeah.
Okay. This anger management thing, what is it that is making you so angry against these people?
Perhaps because you know very well you're breaking the law, but you've been given an order. So
there's a frustration that I think our security people, especially the civilian security, the policemen, have, that it's like they look for an outlet, and if you happen to be that crowd of people protesting, you will provide ample. But when you know you can get away with something that is clearly wrong and unlawful, you encourage other people to do the same. You know, I'm going back to what we started off by looking at, the personal responsibility that we bear.
Yes.
I was reading here and someone says that I'm a bit archaic. This is me translating. No. This is the freedom. If I have a view that he doesn't consider to be up to scale, I am archaic, and they're not wrong. When you ask for leadership that will meet your needs, you should not start with an individual in mind. You should start with the qualities you expect that individual to have and actually write them down. These are the things we want. Right.
They should fit into that.
Yes. Not they happen to sound good or compared to the others. What do you know about that person?
Yeah.
Write it down. Then ask yourself the second question. Okay, when these guys were in positions of authority, what was it? And how did they carry out that mandate?
Yes.
What did the people who worked with them say about this person? Because they're the ones who interact with them, not you. Now, when you've done that, just as a basic, you then begin the journey of deciding whether this is a person you can actually elect or not. But like now, again, the question we asked earlier on, this entire array of individuals who feel that they want to be leaders. This quality that they have that would make them better than the people we have, what exactly is it? Because now the claim by everybody that they'll be better. How? What is it that guarantees us that they'll be better?
There is no guarantee.
Precisely.
Don't you play you mean it's a role of chance.
There is no guarantee in the individual, but where the guarantee comes from is in us being able to hold them to account. When you hold people to account, the options that they have, that wiggle room is limited significantly.
I think there's also a significant role that the knowledge of that individual of what the people will or will not do plays here. That they know or not that the people are at this level whereby you're into these waters, you will not go and joke because somebody is bound to keep you righteous. Somebody is bound to keep you accountable. The opposite is also true. They also know how they can or cannot behave because they know these guys are not going to come and shout. They're not going to make noise. They're not going to keep anybody accountable. There'll be a little bit of noise for some time and then they'll let it go.
Yes.
That's the thing. They know. They know whether you'll keep them accountable. They also know whether you will keep quiet.
Yes.
And that, the only way, in my opinion, to be able to sort something like that is to be on toes all the time.
Yes.
For yourself as an individual, forming the basic units of society, from family to community to governments, etc., etc. It starts with you. It really, really does.
It does.
And if we can't get to the point whereby nonsense will not be accepted, that's why I shouldn't be met with chagrin when you tell me a man was deported because he caused a ruckus in an airport. No, because that's the way it should be. that certain things will not be accepted. You will not be able to steal a chicken on the side of the road. Neither will you be able to steal county funds that are meant to educate children at the ECD level. Neither will you divert capitation. Neither will you say that a health system belongs to just a few people. Neither will you then say that you can misappropriate funds that were supposed to be used for something else. Neither will you say that you knew the floods were coming and that you would not sort something out. You will not do any of those things, and you will not steal an election.
And neither will you be a president of doublespeak, if you know what I mean. Because let's you know, when you keep talking about the issues that bedevil us as a country, at times it's good to go back. That's why City gives us any dictionary knowledge, because if you know City.
In terms
of, yes, experience and being there. So if we just look back at Kenyans are complaining about how much is being donated and whatnot. Let's go back to when we needed to have streamline or some form of policy on how much these leaders get to spend during campaigns. And according to reports here, IEBC in 2021 had placed the cap at 4.4 billion shillings for presidential campaigns.
4.4 what?
Billion shillings. But, cap. Yes, cap.
Hey.
However, these proposed regulations faced significant opposition in Parliament and were ultimately rejected due to technicalities and timing issues. That meant anyone who was campaigning that time would spend up to 1 trillion shillings if they wanted.
It wouldn't matter.
In order for them to get to that office. Which begs the question, once they get there and they spent that much, how do they recoup it back? Ni swali tu. So are you surprised that you're now giving out 20 million shillings? No. Silence.
I mean, there has to be for a minute. There has to be for a minute, because I'm asking myself, well, it does. Yeah.
So that you can just do the maths, take a deep breath and ask. Someone doesn't do that if they don't think it has an effect.
Yes.
Someone does it because they know it has worked before.
And there is a reason why it was objected in the National Assembly to start with. Because then we know, City, you're worth how much? How much did you spend? We can trace the dots to where we are today.
You know what? I think about, the conversations that we had over the last couple of days and the things that happened since Friday with this new pact. And I think about the last, give or take, 10 years and how people have said, that they live in spite of the government. Yeah. That, anything can be happening, but they're just going to live anyway. They're going to find a way to send their children to school. They're going to find a way to put food on the table, find a way to care for the sick and bury the dead, kind of thing. You'll find a way. But then I've also come to the realization that there are many folks in positions of leadership that live in spite of the people.
Yeah.
That it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter how high you raise your hands in protest, that they're going to do what they're going to do, regardless of how much noise you're making. Because the noise is not sustained. The action then is by just a few. And until and unless you have a constant and consistent level of accountability in the same measure in terms of volume, that you're not going to see any change. Can you imagine if on Friday the pact or the union or whatever it is that was being done and people realized and they said, you know what, guys, maybe this is not what Kenyans want, and to have been so vigilant about the position of Kenyans to say, you know what, guys, we're making a mistake here, and what is it really going to take to turn things around? Is this it? No, it's just not on.
Yeah.
Because who in their minds is convinced unequivocally that the decisions that they took on Friday are actually going to turn the country around? Convinced truthfully and openly and honestly. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who's really convicted that this move is actually going to make a difference. You'd be hard-pressed to find one person speaking in truth and honesty. People know what they're supposed to do, and that's what makes it worse for me.
Is hope logical?
I think it is. That you can hope that things can get better. I mean, look, it doesn't matter what religion you are subscribed to,
yeah.
But I think every one of them has that thing vested in hope. I mean, when we talk about the one that we know, these things remain: faith, hope, and love. They still tell us that the greatest of these is love, but hope was mentioned in one of the in that thing. Mm-hmm. That what is that? It is the feeling that you know the next minute, the next hour, the next evening, the next morning, things can actually get better, or that something will come. I will get somewhere. It's something that it's inexplicable, but you have that can actually be. Can you put hope in the wrong people? Absolutely. But does it diminish hope? It doesn't.
It doesn't. You see, when you talk about the 9-point report, and I'll just go and just tick them as we go. Implementation of National NADCO report, there is a process on how that needs to be done. Inclusivity in governance, doesn't the Constitution suggest?
In governance?
Yes, inclusivity.
In governance?
Yes. Doesn't
is that thing? Anyway, continue reading. Continue reading.
Doesn't the Constitution itself call for the face of Kenya when you're doing appointments and whatnot? Strengthening devolution, doesn't the Constitution address itself on matters to do with devolution? Talk about youth economic empowerment. What exactly do you mean by that? The country has put in place through the Constitution in terms of the youth and the people of Kenya and where they are. You're talking about national debt audit. Did the Auditor General the other week talk about the audit queries and what needs to be done? And what happened? The very same leaders trashed that document. Now we're talking about right to peaceful assembly. The Constitution addresses itself on that. You talk about sovereignty and the rule of law. Shouldn't everybody just respect the sovereignty and the rule of law? So why do we need two gentlemen to come shake hands for these things to be achieved? They know what they need to do. They just choose not to.
And that's where we are. And that's the position in which we find ourselves today. But I do think that there's something that you can do because we're still here. If we weren't, then they wouldn't be. That you're still here and they still have an opportunity to keep your government righteous. You still have an opportunity to keep your leaders accountable. And there's certain things that you can do. We were to have a conversation about, which way for the opposition in terms of what happens now that there is this new pact, MOU, call it whatever you want to call it. We were supposed to have a conversation around that, but unfortunately, Jeremiah Kioni, the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, was late today, so we couldn't accommodate that conversation. But it is an important one for us to have because if one position was to then keep government accountable, in this case, it would be the opposition, and then that raises the question that so are the people for whom you're supposed to provide services, for whom you're supposed to provide conducive environments, would the people end up being a government's opposition?
I look at it from the aspect that the Constitution does not have the opposition. It has the National Assembly who are supposed to check the government. But as we speak right now, the National Assembly cannot do that work, which then goes back to mean that the people have to take the responsibility of checking the excesses and being the official opposition. So yes.
We have a role?
We've always had a role. And we're beginning to realize it more and more. With every passing day, I read, I look, I see. People are realizing it and they're beginning to understand it more and more. It has taken a lot of pain for people to understand this. But they're understanding it. The means by which the understanding has arrived may be secondary to the discussion, but people understand. And the consequences of enabling and allowing corrupt practices to continue flourishing, it's also beginning to dawn on them that the very things they pursue and want for themselves, those are the very things they sacrifice at the altar of accepting this impunity.
Yes.
You accept it, take it that you have given license for flight for everything that may have been beneficial to you. Because it isn't the money that you hear being misplaced. Where do you think it comes from? You. The money that you hear someone has done, God knows what. Where do you think it comes from? You. Yes. So if that money doesn't get to where it's supposed to be, where it's supposed to go to, your money has gone.
Yes.
And you sit and watch. Again, let me take you back to what I said earlier about taxpayer. So when someone comes to give you money, whose money do you think they're giving you? It's your money. So why don't you let that money do what it's supposed to do? Because if it does, all these things that you feel you lack will not have the power that they now have, because you'll likely find systems working. And when they work, your complaints will go down. If we can't take health for granted, if we can't take education for our children for granted, basic, then what on earth are all these other things for? Forget these high-flown ideas we keep talking about. Just that health, education. I can walk into a hospital and I will receive health care. My children can wake up and go to school. Basic.
And not just go to school and get quality
education. And the thing is, we make these requests, or we make these demands as though they were, huge intergalactic demands, but really it isn't. That you can. We looked at the 140 million.
Please repeat them.
Let me repeat them.
Repeat them again.
We look at the 140 million that was doled out, or that was pledged in the last 2 weeks, 14 days.
Yeah.
If you take that 140 million and the things that is actually able to do today in Kenya, you will pay capitation for 6,296 students per year under the free day secondary education. And what this does is that it gives each student 22,244 shillings. Mm-hmm. This was a great job by the Standard, by the way. Build 7 kilometers of tarmac road at 20 million per kilometer. I'm telling you, the whole thing done. You would pay a year's salary for 194 nurses at 60,000 shillings per month. A year. You would pay a nurse for a year, and you would pay 194
As
of them.
speak, clinical officers are
on strike because you've not been able to pay them.
Yes.
You would pay a year. You would build 40 classrooms where there are children across the nation. When you talk, it doesn't matter where you look, Nairobi, Kilifi, Thika, wherever. There are children outside, learning outside. I wonder what happens to them today when the heavens have opened. Yes. But you'd be able to build 40 classrooms at 3.5 million shillings
each. And that would give them what? Quality education.
You would buy 50 dialysis machines. Go to your level 6 hospital in Nairobi today, and people who are waiting for dialysis have to queue. And you're left to the mercies of somebody who will be able to smile at you. Mm-hmm. You would buy them for between 1.2 and 3.3 million shillings each. You would fund 2,800 students with bursaries at 50,000 shillings per year. You would construct 100 low-cost housing units at 1.4 million each. You would buy over 20 police vehicles. You would provide water access to 40 million people. 40 million people. That's what you would do. That's what it would look like. The demands you're making, my good people, are not high in the sky demands. They're basic things for which, according to this is little money, would be able to do in this country. And the question is for you today to realize how you're making your choices, for whom you're making your choices, when and why you're making your choices. They're important ones to make. You should lament, but then you should actually take the next action. And usually it's educating yourself and making the final decision at the ballots. Those are the conversations that we have on Kenya's Biggest Conversations, and we don't stop. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga. Embakasi North MP James Gakuya has called on Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja to address the sewage issue this rainy season. Gakuya has lamented the governor's incompetence, claiming he has failed to bring Nairobi County to its rightful place.
Hiyo Nairobi mnasema inawaki wapi? Si kwa sewerage, za quarage, si kwa drainage, si kwa stormwater, si kwa maji, ni wapi inawaki? Si kwa barabara, si kwa takataka, inawaki wapi? Haiwaki. Hii Nairobi ni Nairobi imesahulika na ikawachwa. Na ni lazima tuitafutie mwongozo mpya. Na kwa hivyo wakati unakuja.
Hill has also opposed the collaboration between President William Ruto and ODM leader Rut-Rila Odinga, saying it's for their own benefit and not the interest of the people.
Raila hajazoea kukaa mahali hakuna bread and butter. Kwa hivyo hakuna vile utamwambia atoke kwa butter. Yeye atangangana hapo. Lakini kama yeye ni kupigania haki za Wakenya, kwani amesahau kwamba kupigania haki wa Kenya si wakati yuko kitandani na wale wanaitwa serikali. Ukienda kitandani na serikali si umekuwa serikali.
At least 38 people who were arrested at Jesus Ministry Church in Roysambu on Sunday have been released. Police said they were taken to Kasarani Police Station for grilling, where they were later released unconditionally on Sunday evening. A group of lawyers had arrived at the station to ask for their release, pending probe, if any. Police authorities agreed to release them. This came amid clashes between police and some locals over a donation of 20 million shillings given to Bishop Edward Mwai of the Jesus Winner Ministry Assembly Church in Nairobi's Roysambu by President William Ruto. Lawyer and political analyst Martin Oloo has termed some handshakes that have been made in the country's past as unnecessary. Speaking on SpiceFM, Oloo said that this is because they shouldn't serve as a reason for the government to perform their obligations, which are actually already their duties.
Agreements are meant to work. When you're given a vote by the people to go and govern, you're meant to go and govern. Now, I don't know where anywhere the people told this UDA government or this Kenya Kwanza government that if you reach the middle, look for Raila, make a pact with him so that you can create peace. If you are a parent, you are married, you are a husband, you have a wife, it is expected that you will govern your home and you will have peace in your home. So when you go and now have a handshake with your wife, it does not mean that now all of a sudden there is now a rapprochement and there's an aversion of what? It is expected that the government functions, government delivers on the programs. It has the mandate, it has the apparatus, it has the taxes to deliver for people. It doesn't require it to go and make an agreement, a pact with anybody to deliver it. It's an abdication.
Oloo has further blamed the handshakes for oblivious changes in the constitution, which are basically made to benefit those at the top.
We sneak in our chieftaincy into governance as if you should be the last man standing when you are a president. Now, if you go that route, it is these bits of handshakes that took us down the road, made us change so many of the parts of the constitution, and led us to the fight for the second liberation, gave us this constitution, which is in many respects a tougher constitution and perhaps a more disliked constitution. If you asked any of these people, including Baba himself and of course Ruto, we know he opposed the constitution. This constitution is too hard for them. Why? It makes life a little bit difficult for them to manipulate and for them to swing us around. So yes.
And finally, on the international scene, former central banker, that is Mark Carney, won the race to become leader of Canada's ruling Liberal Party and will succeed Justin Trudeau as Prime Minister. Carney will take over as the leader in Canada, which is in the midst of a trade war with longtime ally and United States under President Donald Trump, and must hold a general election soon. Carney, 59, took 86% of votes cast to beat former Finance Minister Christy Freeland in a contest in which just under 152,000 party members voted. That's the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's one for the books this Monday morning. Quite some traffic, and we're looking at it coming still heavy off the Thika Superhighway, and it's going to find its way through to the city this morning, especially right around surveys when it gets stickier still. Kiambu Road in and outbound traffic, but usually we're going to say that is inbound traffic because folks have made a number of lanes trying to get through towards Muthaiga Square. So there's traffic on Gong Road. There is traffic on Outer Ring, inbound traffic, and the Eastern Bypass is a hot mess. Inbound traffic as well as coming off Manyanja Road and Kangunda Road as well. On Mombasa Road, there it is as well. Inbound traffic, very heavy. And some of that traffic is finding its way to the Southern Bypass. Your otherwise scenic route into the city also has some traffic today. Langata Road busy. Some of that will go towards Rila Odinga. The rest of it will go Rila Odinga Way rather, and the rest of it will go towards Uhuru Highway. It's busy coming off of Ngong Road as it is on Waiyaki Way. We are still in traffic hour proper. Looks like we'll be that way for a while, especially with the rains coming down. Let's keep an eye on things and talk on SpiceFM KE on X. Hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Good morning and welcome to the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation on this 10th day of March. And so, yes, I know a lot of you were waiting for that conversation to happen with Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni. He's given his profound apologies for having been late and for us not to be able to accommodate him at that hour. Let's see what tomorrow brings, essentially. And so he's given his apologies. And so who are we not to be takers of an apology? Indeed. And as we get into our final conversation for this hour, we're going to be looking at what Kenya needs to learn about fostering sustainable business growth. We've been having a couple of conversations around this, from the Ministry of Agriculture through to the Ministry of Industry, Trade, and the likes. We've been looking at, what Kenya actually does need. Today, we speak with Peter Mutinda, who is the president of the Africa, Asia and Middle East Chamber of Commerce, and he is our guest in the hot seat this morning. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Du.
How are you?
Very well. Thank you for having me.
Karibu sana. Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Asante.
It's raining outside. It's a bit cool. Maybe, but what we're talking about this morning is a big ticket item, especially when we look at sustainable growth. So we thank you for being here with us this morning. As we normally do in the Situation Room, CT, this young strapping gentleman to your left, right, with the other left, whichever one you want, this morning, goes around the African continent every week, and he comes back with a proverb from a different country. Every week he will be in a different country. So he'll tell you which country he's in. He'll tell you what the proverb is. And then we ask that you interpret that for us and tell us what you think. Is that all right?
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Peter.
Yes.
There's a country whose capital is called Libreville.
Libreville.
Have you heard of such a capital?
It's a familiar name.
Familiar name?
Yes.
Would you venture to guess the country it belongs to?
Not really.
Wise. It's the Gabonese Republic.
Gabonese?
Republic. The Republic of Gabon.
Yes.
Gabon.
Yes.
That's where our proverbs come from this week.
Okay.
The proverb. When a fool is cursed, he thinks that he is being praised.
That's an awesome one.
Okay, why do you think it is awesome?
Wow. Okay, it takes me back to, when someone is being praised, and then when it's being cursed. Can you repeat again? When a fool is?
I will repeat it. Let me say it slowly. When a fool is cursed, he thinks he is being praised.
Exactly. So you are being praised, you're being cursed, but you think you're being praised.
Yes.
What a paradox. What a paradox. So that qualifies somebody to be a fool, really.
So what do you think it means?
Well, it means somebody who has challenges in communication, reading the non-verbals, probably, reading the reality on ground. And therefore, you really mistake. Because, for sure, people can actually praise you in sarcasm. Yeah. They can also praise you to lead you to things that will bring a curse or failure or challenges in your life. Yeah. So, yeah, it boils down to the ability to decipher, to discern, to understand, where you are headed to. Yeah, people can praise you to curse, to failure, actually. It has happened in the political scene. It has happened in the business world on the entrepreneurs. It's happened even in countries. So, yeah, I think, you need to be able to read between the lines. Yeah, and so that's my take this morning.
Okay, well, read between the lines is, I guess, a good way to get into it this morning.
Yeah.
And so when we jump into our conversation for this morning, and we're looking at sustainable business growth for Kenya, for anybody really, and what is the direction that Kenya ought to be going into. So we're going to delve into some of that today. But let's start off from the very beginning in terms of definitions. When we talk about business growth and sustainability of it, what is that?
Wow, very good question. So what is sustainable in the first place, and what is business growth? So when you talk about sustainability, it means that it's going to be there tomorrow. Okay? It's going to be there in the long haul. It is going to uphold the trajectory, the direction of growth. If we are talking about growth, especially what we are talking about this morning. So most of the time, we've had a burst of growth, the ups and downs, tantrums, and that has been a challenge, I think, for the better part of the historical economic growth in this country and probably in many other parts of the world. So sustainability has to do with persistent, consistent policies maybe, virtues, approaches that are going to affect, let's say, our GDP, our per capita, right? Things that are going to help finally improve the purchasing power of the common man. Yeah. And now when you go to economic growth, it's actually about those factors that I've just mentioned now. And that is the per capita, right? Currently we are talking about what? 2010 per year USD. You can say that in K shillings, maybe what, 260, depending on which rate you want to use. 260,000 per month, that would be like 21K. What we are saying is the per capita or the revenue that on average a Kenyan has.
Okay.
But when you look at the normal expenses, housing, food, is that sustainable? Yeah. So economic growth is going to impact these parameters. Yeah, that will finally impact the common manage, the Wajiku. Thank you.
Now, when you talk about sustainable economic growth, there are a lot of back-end things that have to be put in place. Let's talk about improving on infrastructure, having the correct policies, investing in digital frameworks that we need today for us to be able to say we have a sustainable economic growth. But these are also not easy. It's not cheap investment that need to go into it. So in terms of ensuring that this happens, what must Kenya do or learn from its peers?
Wow, that's a very good question. And I like the fact that, Dennis, you're already talking about it's not an easy road. I also like the fact that you're able to bring in the many aspects of it. Kenya has been so much on the agricultural approach. They say agriculture is the backbone of the economy for many, many years. That's what we say. But you've talked about the digital economy, right? You're bringing in a manufacturing industry. Yeah. And you know what? The first thing that we need to understand is that when we compare with most economies in the world, it takes time to get to a level where the citizens can feel the impact of the economy. That patience is required. There has been a lot of bickering between the government, the politicians and politics, and the economists. There's been a lot of that happening. Today, are we able to ask ourselves, what is the common mwananchi supposed to do so that they contribute to this?
Contribute to what? The bickering?
The growth of the economy. I think we have already contributed to that, dude. I love the joke.
What can the mwananchi do to contribute?
Yes, the common man.
Yes, but the question I would ask is, what more can they do? Because the common mwananchi is already doing what he can. See, what you do is determined by the field that enables you to do the things that are supposed to be done. If the opportunities for doing certain things are not easily available, then much as you may want to do these things, you won't. Because if you're talking about just the fundamentals of what you call manpower development or human resource, we have it in plenty.
We're exporting it.
Yes, we have it. But do we have an economy that can absorb the human resource that we have meaningfully? Because if the economy can, then it would mean that the growth we speak of and the sustainability of it would be easy. Simply because you would have all these trained people contributing to answer your question. An enabling environment that makes it possible for all the bodies that exist within our boundaries to actually find something meaningful to do. That would bring about what you've just asked. But that doesn't exist.
Thank you very much.
Or if it exists, it exists in such small quantities that, it exists in small quantities.
Small quantities.
Okay, can we demystify this? What is this exists in small quantities? Because I know everybody has talked about what the taxman, what the government, the politicians are not doing. So what are these things that we can say the common man has already done and needs to improve, has, they're down a bit? Can we just break it down?
I can break it down for you. I can break it down for you very easily.
With a lot of energy, I can see.
No. Paying taxes is what they do, but they pay taxes from what they have. And even when they don't have, they still pay taxes because it's indirect taxes.
Yes.
If you board a public vehicle, you're paying taxes.
Yes.
Okay? Whatever cost the owner of that vehicle has in terms of fuel and maintenance, it is passed on to you. You, the person who boards that, are the one who will eventually pay for it.
Okay.
If you are able to take your child to school so that the future is guaranteed, this population of well-educated people is a continuum, you are contributing. If you are a citizen and you participate in the activities of the economy as best as you can and as are available to you, you are contributing. If having contributed, you then, whether it is in your county government or the national government, you have a situation where the enabling environment, which is brought about by being paid for what you've done, doesn't happen, and the conversation is not being paid but pending bills, then clearly your participation is thwarted. You cannot participate, even if you want to. If you have the money for which you worked, then it means you can do more work. If you can do more work, then it means you are growing the economy. That's a simple mwananchi. A simple mwananchi has money to do a job, they engage others. Those whom they engage others. It is what you call a vortex. And that thing keeps rotating round and round. And in the process, money is produced and more and more and more money is produced.
But this is the thing, isn't it? And just coming back to you that the majority are the ones on the other ends and not really in the midst of figuring out what happens with the country's economy. But they do contribute to it. Literally, like Siti has said, everything that you do, you will spend or pay something in terms of taxes. You wake up in the morning, you leave your house. Whatever transport you're entering into, whether you're entering into public transport or into your own vehicle, if you buy fuel, you're contributing. If you have a meal that day when you wake up in the morning, by virtue of the fact that you've bought food, you're contributing. You purchase anything through the day, you're contributing.
You pay your house rent.
Somebody's getting a tax off of that. Everything you do, literally, you contribute. Even if your children are in a school whereby the government is paying for it, that has come from you. And we also know what the trend is, that you're probably going to pay a little bit extra because government is not paying everything that they should pay in terms of capitation. So literally, it's a cycle of contribution from people. So in terms of it being sustainable, so long as there are people in Kenya, if their contribution is being made, it is being sustained by virtue of the fact that
Kenya Revenue Authority would have no conversation about targets and meeting it if the citizenry were not contributing.
Absolutely.
They would set targets and they would probably just tax themselves and we'd see how far that would go. The fact that you talk of trillions that are actually collected, there's no better testimony than that. That the citizen has participated meaningfully. And if that participation is reduced in terms of the money, then it means that the activities that would have generated that money have also reduced. Because those economic activities guarantee employment. Employment comes with payments. Payments come with people. People come with spending. the logic behind it is easy and simple to understand. And in the absence of that, everything that we're talking about then either has a downward spiral or at the very best is stagnant, but it doesn't go up. So when I talked about an enabling environment is one where this growth that we're speaking of can be seen and it continues.
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask, while we are at it, when you look at the regimes since independence for this country, of course, the Kenyatta one, Moi, then Kibaki, then Kenyatta 2, then, thank you, Dennis, then Ruto, right? Ruto 1, okay.
So
you've added
2.
one, eh?
Kenyatta 2 times 2.
Kenyatta 2 times 2. When you look at those regimes historically, and talk about enabling environment, a city is insisting, right? Who can you say? And I know the answer is like written on the wall. What can you say has really created an enabling environment of those guys? And why? Let's demystify that so that we see what can the citizens do and what can they do. Because where I'm driving to, I'm driving to is, if we're in this room and there's something I'm able to push myself, there's something I can only push when the three of you hold on. And I realize the three of you are not really doing that. But there's still something I can do more. Did I not go that direction? But I don't want to. I just want first we break it down, come historically, and then you can come to that point.
Ask your question again, because clearly you have decided we are the guests and you're the host. So ask us. All right, ask us the question.
No, thank you.
Yeah, how I look at it is the enabling environment has already been created by the people, because it is the people through their taxes that have enabled all these governments to be able to exist. It is through the government, through the people, that the governments exist. Through the people that governments do whatever it is they do in terms of paying salaries. Schools are built, hospitals are functioning, and which begs the question: what more can the citizens do? Because they have created that sustainability and an enabling environment for the government to exist. But what is the government doing with the resources given by the people for the economy to grow from where the citizens have put it? That's the big question. Because we talk about infrastructure, we talk about digital economy. The citizens have already given their taxes. The government is to take these taxes and improve on the infrastructure and the digital economy for this economy to be sustainable and continue growing. So, what's your question again?
Thank you very much. I see where you're going. But first, for these regimes which you've talked about, can we demystify and break one of them that stands out? It creates enabling environment now from the government, from
Please
the authorities.
Please do.
Which one is that?
You break it down.
Oh, you tell us.
Everybody says Kibaki. I don't know whether you're in agreement with that.
What would be the things that you would be able to look at under this administration then that made the economy sustainable, that made business growth sustainable under Kibaki?
Kibaki, if I can say, and I'm saying that because everybody quotes him. Every regime that comes in, after him, they always
do you quote him?
They are referencing to him.
So you don't believe the things people say, but you're saying it because people say it.
Whether I believe or not, I think it's going to come out.
Okay.
As the conversation goes on.
Let's hear from you in terms of what you thought that to be.
I think Kibaki did not so much, but he just allowed people to be in terms of the economy. Yeah. If you check well, there was very, very little mouthing, talking from that office, the presidency, actually, that time. Yeah. He built confidence. And you see also when he was coming in, there was 24 years of Moera, right? So there was also confidence in the people. We have waited for changes, Like some of us, I think, since I was born, I only knew one head of state, right? That's the only thing I knew. And so when change came, it was more of the citizens in Kibaki's time than anything else. In that, there was finally changes here. And there was what? Belief, faith, what you want to say. The things that he had promised, people embraced them. And they ran with them. And he didn't interfere much. That's what I can say. But it was more of the citizens. Finally, maybe they believe there was oppression, right? There was oppression and all that. Finally, changes come. Yeah. And therefore, people were doing their business. Because most of the people, when you hear today, I have heard even the politicians, I have heard them saying that, you know what, I meant more money. Some of them are even members of parliament, it's unbelievable. I meant more money in my hustle, Kibaki time. All right? So what happened? I did what? I meant money. Okay, I'm the president of Asia-Africa Chamber, Africa-Asia Middle East Chamber of Commerce, called AMEC. We do networking events, corporate, like 13th of March, this Thursday, 4 to 10 at Kemvisky. We are bringing in investors and delegates from all over, Holland, Italy, Malaysia itself, and all that. This is our personal initiative. Of course, we are public entity in the fact that we are limited. It's an entity limited by guarantee, but it is us without the government being involved, right? I know of an Italian who is doing quite a big investment without involving any government or anything here. Our own initiatives, because we have gone to Malaysia, interacted with them. We have gone online and looked for what and where. So what I'm trying to say is, and what I'm driving to today is this: if when any regime comes in. We used to complain Moi time. Kibaki came in, right? We had a lot of confidence. But that is the time many people died, the post-election violence. It's good to be realistic.
That was during the second term.
The second term, right? Is it? Meaning, guys were saying, you have not won, we need you out.
Yes.
Were we not seeing the economy, the things are done in the economy? What I'm trying to say is, we were still complaining. After some time, we started, right? Okay, a lot of issue, a lot of bloodshed, and of course, that thing came biting our economy, right? Yeah, it came biting our economy. Fast forward, Uhuru comes, is it? Then we started, it's a dynasty, right? And we had all our complaints and everything that happened. Ruto is in now. What is happening now? Everybody knows what's going on everywhere, right? So my question is, and I'm trying to bring some paradigm shift here. What I'm trying to say is, what can the locals do other than the murmuring and all that? Because you know very well, when politicians, I've heard, I don't know, Honorable Millie Diambo here, I've heard him saying that they are looking for power. I think I went through some of your situation room interviews here. The politicians, when they go up, they're looking for power, is it? It is very true. They want power. It will come with money. It will come. They sort their own things as well. But what can the common mwananchi do? We have already the Gen Z era, right? We saw the power that comes in. That you can actually, the finance bill can come down by the Gen Z, is it? How about the same energy and power, right? We focus on doing things that we can do now.
Such as what? I really want to know what are those things that we're talking about? Focusing energy on doing what?
Thank you very much. He mentioned digital economy. Did he mention that?
Who comes up with the policies and the infrastructure?
No, but actually do. I think a lot of times we wrap this up in, some ambiguous statements.
Very ambiguous.
But practically, when we say that you can contribute towards a sustainable economy, what can you do? What are you telling me to do? Are you saying open a business? Are you saying do work from home, rework? What are we actually saying that you can actually do more as a common citizen that is going to contribute to this sustainable economy?
Thank you very much. I think we're getting to the gist of it.
Let me just top up on what Andu is saying. If you look at the European Union as we speak, they have put in place an act called the Digital Services Act. And what this does is it enables the techies in that country to come up with the technological infrastructure that is supported by the European Union. This, you see, is a policy that has been given power by all the 27 countries there. As we talk about digital economy in Kenya, begs the question, has the government put in place infrastructure? And by this, I mean, do we have a policy that is backed by funds, intentional funds, to help this economy grow?
Wow.
To enable me as a tech-savvy individual come up with all this infrastructure that is needed.
I'll take that, Dennis. The first question is the policies in this country, because policies can come as an impediment. We just want to agree. First, we need to agree that you can come up with the policies which are going to cripple people. So in the digital economy, if we can a little bit dwell there, because we are agreeing there are parameters, there are pillars that can contribute to economic growth, which is sustainable. We have been in agriculture, and it has been helping us, right? But we need to improve that. Now we need to go to digital economy. We can go to manufacturing and foster that one as well. Gig economy, they call it. We can also get into that, and it's happening. But now, the policies that are there, Kenya. I was talking to somebody from London about M-Pesa, right? And I was so proud saying that this mobile money thing you see sweeping the whole world. Do you know it began in my country? Do you know the first thing? I mean, we were the first people who got really, really established on mobile banking, mobile money. Yeah. Why did that happen? Because the policies which exist allowed this to happen. Hello? There was, because what happens is somebody can come and say, come on, this thing you're going to do is going to affect our country. I don't know, this money you're transacting where and where. And we know there was a lot of lobbying against that as well. But it still happened, right? So today, if we were to demystify that thing of digital economy, what challenges can we say the government has put? Because we'll go to funding, because funding is another whole thing, right? This one side of the policies that control that. What can we say the government has put that is impeding, not allowing? Because I see a lot of things happening, actually. Most people are working online now. I know most of my friends are working online for other countries. I've seen people go to other countries to work and all that, right? So, bringing a policy, what is that policy supposed to do? Is it about finance only? Because that's another item we need to discuss on the table. But is there an environment where you can wake up today and you are a TikToker, for example, you're doing your gig thing, and nobody's is that interfering with that in terms of the authorities?
Kenyans
is that the truth or not?
Kenyans are doing that, yeah.
Kenyans are doing that, even in the streets, right? Yeah. Because I go to town and I find guys are taking things, because I was wondering what is going on. For long I've not been in town, right? Yeah. So I come from the school of thought of what can we do? Now that these guys, they come in, we complain, they go. They come in, they complain, they go. What is the end game?
Perhaps
what is the end game?
Okay, well, let's take a break and come back and look at what the end game is. And then perhaps you can also get to that question where I'm saying that the locals will be involved in this. How would they be involved? What is it that they're meant to do? Peter Mutinda is the president of the Africa, Asia, Middle East Chamber of Commerce, and we're looking at sustainability of economic growth and what Kenya must learn. And we'll come back after this short break where we take a look at what's happening with the weather. It's been a rainy morning, and also what's happening with traffic.
Situation Room.
Traffic as a result of that rain. To start your day. Talk after that. It is 26 minutes to 10.
The weather with SpiceFM.
The showers continue in Nairobi. And we'll see highs of 24 in a mostly cloudy Nakuru at 19. It's raining at 20 in Nyeri, and at 16 Eldoret is cloudy. 30 and mostly sunny in Mombasa, and 30 as well in a sunny Malindi, while at 21 it's cloudy in Kisumu, 21 and now cloudy after the morning rain in Kakamega. The light rain showers continue in Kampala at 23, while at 27 it's cloudy in Dar es Salaam, sunny at 20 in Johannesburg, while Mogadishu at 30 is mostly sunny. It's 19 and sunny at Addis Ababa, one we're looking at mostly sunny conditions at 29 in Lagos, with sunny conditions at 24 in Kinshasa. It's a 16 and a haze over Beijing skies Monday afternoon, and 11 and light rain in Paris, while it's cloudy at 9 degrees in London. We'll round things out in the Big Apple, where at 7 degrees Sunday night it's clear. Coming into Monday, highs of 17 and lows of 6.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
Traffic still continues in the city this morning, and it's still pretty heavy coming off of Thika Superhighway as you get towards Survey, and on Kiambu Road today it's also still pretty busy. We're looking at traffic then also quite something off Limuru Road, and it's coming roundabout from Parklands and then also parts of Westlands. So folks are looking for an escape route and it ends up in traffic. Uhuru Highway coming off Ombaso Road is going to be pretty busy for most parts of today from what we can see, and it's still very heavy on Outer Ring today, in and outbound traffic as you make your way to and from the Thika Superhighway and touching on North Airport Road. Traffic coming on from the Eastern Bypass. We should have been out of traffic hour for now, but the weather has said otherwise. We're going to keep an eye on things, and you're going to help us out through the morning. SpiceFM KE on X.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive, mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
3210, and our guest this hour is Peter Mutinda, who is the president of the Africa, Middle East, Asia Chamber of Commerce, and looking at sustainable growth for Kenya. Now, coming from the earlier definitions of what makes something sustainable is that you should be able to keep and improve on an action over time. And so when we're looking at things that you would input into an economy and say it's going to grow, whether we're talking about manufacturing, whether you're going to talk about, import exports, whether you're going to talk about agriculture, whatever it is that you're going to say, that you will be able to continue to, number one, create a conducive environment, have the necessary inputs, and then outputs carried out over time. That's what sustainability is, essentially.
Sure.
Now we're saying that the people who are in the majority have a role to play in this beyond the taxes that they pay.
Yes.
I'm asking, what is that?
Thank you very much. First should be the attitude, the paradigm shift. I am an employer, and I learned many years ago, 17 years in the bank, Standard Chartered Barclays, I learned many years ago from my seniors that you hire attitude before you go to the skills. And that was to really, really be useful for me outside here in the corporate world. Now, because look at this, some of us, we come from some economies and backgrounds whereby you had to work your way up, right? I could have blamed my late dad, I could have blamed my mom, I could have blamed where I was born, but I just decided, you know what, I'm going to work my way out. Yeah. First, I think I'm the first to go to university from my mom's side and from my dad's side. But I could have followed the track, everybody. So I'm coming from that, saying these regimes that come and go all the time, okay, how can the Kenyan do other than... So let me ask you a question. I said Ruto 1 and I said Ruto and then he said Ruto 1, right? And all that, is it? Ruto 2 coming and all that. So Ruto will be here, President Ruto will be here and then he gone, right? So do I sit here and mama and complain about the government until they go? Right? Or...
why not?
Now talk. I like this.
You see,
let's go.
You see, the mamas that you're talking about... is not
sorry.
normal. It is
You're joking, are you?
Yeah,
it is.
She's waiting.
It is Kenyans communicating and demanding the best from the government that they put in place. Those are not mamas. It is a situation that the Republic, Kenyans, have realized the power that they do have in making sure that right is done by them.
Yes.
When we talk about sustainable business growth,
we
talk about improving business regulations and governance, ease of doing business. Is the government today making it easier for businesses to thrive in this country? We can have a debate on that. Is the government today, when we talk about anti-corruption measures, we know of companies who have wanted to set up in this country but have bolted and left this country, taken businesses to our neighboring countries because what? The government is not fighting corruption each and every other time. There are issues to do with corruption and getting kickbacks. So when we talk about the mamas, the citizenry have every right to mama and complain if right is not being done by them.
Actually, Dennis, because Do is raring to go.
No, I still want you to answer my question. I can ask, they say 3 is a charm, but I can ask it again.
Please go.
What is it that people in the country are supposed to do beyond paying taxes that's going to contribute to a sustained economic growth?
Given the environment, I heard somebody you were doing here was talking about context all the time. Given the environment that Kenya has been since independence, of complaining and murmuring for legit reasons, because I want to qualify that. That does not mean if you complain of like an investor coming this country and because of kickbacks they have to go to neighboring.
Should Kenyans murmur at that point?
Those are real you murmur. But do you stop at murmuring? Let me ask you a question. Will murmuring bring food on the table?
You murmur and the demand for what is right.
Yes, as you demand, what happens?
You're still paying taxes.
And as you pay tax?
As you pay taxes, you hope for better policies.
Exactly. As you're pushing for the policies, what I'm trying to say is, because we've been doing this, I like the look I see in the room. Guys, I wish you could see what I'm seeing here. So, I like the look. As you push for these policies, okay, as you push for this government to do, what else are you doing at an individual level, at organization level? Because I have fought.
You expect us to do something.
And this is where I'm hoping we can get there.
This thing you expect us to do, what is it?
Let me use the example of a foreigner coming here, because that's our tough. Those are things we do. Okay. Recently, we brought some guys from Italy. Okay, why? It's in multi sectors. He's in agriculture, he's in power and everything. Right? I had to pick and follow the lawyer who's going to do this stuff for him. Right? Walk to him, to the government offices and all that. And for sure, there are those battles of what? Kickbacks and all those things. Yes. But I am saying, this guy, sustainability, can I tell you something? Sustainability has to be on both sides. Yeah? If you talk about this international trade thing, if these guys are going to come and invest in this country, right, don't play them. I started with the lawyer. I actually told the lawyer, if you overcharge this guy, tomorrow he's settled here, he's going to know what you did, right? It's not going to be sustainable. If you go to the government and you have forced those kickbacks, because it's government and ourselves, right? Just because this guy shows up in an advocate office and is a Mzungu guy, he's overcharged, right? So this thing, people have to be very intentional in what they do. We walk to the government and I will be saying, you know what, this guy needs to do something, and we fight that battle. And if you make it difficult for them, yeah, part of the shouting. I may not be a Gen Z on the streets going there, right? But we are going to fight in the offices, right? I'm going to work with this guy in those offices and convince and push them that we are together. And things have actually worked, right?
That means you're also just murmuring like the kawaida mwananchi. You're just taking the murmuring in the offices, so you're not any better. But the question then is, let's talk about the government investing in making sure that we have ease of doing business. Do we see that? That is where the rubber meets the road.
If we flip it this other side, these are two parties. Is each party doing their part? The government has work to do, for the record. Okay?
So what's his
extra? The government has work to do. One is clear those corruptions. You know, we are coming from somewhere, right? Corruption, whether in government offices, whether in ourselves. And who are those people working in the government? Because every time I walk in the office, believe you guys, I'm involved in these things. If I walk into an office, who is demanding that kickback? Is it not a Kenyan? Whose kids are Gen Zs and are going to the streets there and going? So before you get to the presidency and you get to everybody, these things, if you are going to the Minister of Agriculture, if you are going to the Minister of Trade and Investment, who is this person who is being, asking for the kickback in the first place? So that kasuba, that thing that is within us, all of us, we have to do these things, needs to be cleared. But then the government has a lot of responsibility to doing this. Yeah? All that I'm saying is, since we have pushed and pushed and pushed, right? What can we do? Is there something, as this happens, I'm just pulling in, I'm saying, as we go to the streets, because, for example, the agency went to the streets, right? The finance bill came down, right? Good enough, is it? Then?
You tell us.
You want something more?
Then, coalition, right? Then, many things, eh? Oh, sorry. You see the government? You see what is happening now? So, let me ask you, what can you say is the accomplishment of the Gen Z that is tangible now? The finance bill fell, which had tangible things that Kenyans had a problem with. That is true. I agree. Tangible things. But what has it contributed? The whole thing, up to today. And I think, because I believe it was a genesis of the many things today. The broad-based government, the MOUs that has happened. I think it was like,
But you've answered the question you've asked.
Yes.
You've actually answered it. It brought about change. Change that was probably not anticipated.
Yes.
Because a lot of things happened after that.
Okay.
But the change wouldn't have taken place if what they were agitating for didn't resonate with the rest of the public.
Yeah.
They simply acted out what other people were thinking or saying or murmuring.
Yes.
But they acted it out.
Yes.
Within the law.
Within
the law. But they also, in so doing, they also exposed the underbelly of the government. Because when the government reacted, one then saw a side of the government.
The other side. Yes.
That had not been seen with the clarity that it was seen.
Yes.
And that now forced other changes that have come and others which are yet to come. Because the thing about change is it has its own momentum.
Yes.
Once it starts, it's like a runaway train or probably a train that's going downhill. It gathers momentum as it moves along. But the question is this. We see the momentum. But whether we like it or not, there is a huge role the government has to play.
Yes.
Huge. Because they are the repository of all the monies that they take from us in terms of taxes. And it's them who decide with their budgeting and the needs where this money should go. Okay?
Yes.
So now the question is, this is me asking you now, how do we get the government to use the money for the purposes it was intended? Because when you look at the money that we spend, if indeed they were spent for the purposes that they were intended for, there are many things in this country that
be miles away, isn't it?
Yes.
Actually, now that's the other side of the coin. When you talk about corruption, right? The millions of money we see in corruption scandals. So if that money was put in an industry like the digital economy that we are talking about, what impact can it do? Because part of the economic growth, and if it's also health, right? If that money was put into SHA, for example, what would happen? Because a healthy nation, is a productive, nation, nation. So those actually, when you say digital manufacturing, somebody should put health there. Yeah, because when you're healthy, you're vibrant, you're strong, and all that.
So I hear you say, essentially, that government has a primary role in ensuring that any economic growth that it goes about must be sustainable. The primary role here is government.
Correct.
Because government's job is not to create jobs. Government's job is not to make sure that people can start their businesses. Government's job is to ensure that a conducive environment exists where all of these things can happen.
The word is conducive.
So,
yes,
the people existing in this vortex do what they're supposed to do, and they try to live within the law and try to keep their leaders accountable. But the primary role here belongs to government. So when we're talking about then sustainable growth and development, the primary practitioners of this sustainable growth then is government, is it not?
That's correct. In terms of enabling, in terms of conducive environment,
and also in terms of making sure that billions of shillings don't disappear in corruption, also making sure that your debt doesn't go through the roof, also making sure that development projects, which you said would become development projects, actually exist. So it's beyond just that their job is that, but their accountability metrics is to make sure that these other things that we're seeing every day don't happen.
Very true.
Because if I could also just pick up from when Ndu has left it, you remember when the government was coming into place, they promised a digital superhighway. And if we sit today and Kenyans, as you call them, mama, that has not happened, is because they are telling the government, Ola, you told us this, it has not happened. We demand that you do that. That goes back to the digital economy that we are talking about. But as well, we talk about the Africa free trade area that exists in this region. And you are the president of Africa, Middle East and Asia. And Africa free trade area has not achieved what it ought to achieve because of policies that the governments have failed to put in place. That means the government is squarely failing Kenyans in having that sustainable economic growth that ought to be there. You agree?
I am in agreement. The government has a big role, a major role to play in this. Okay? The only thing that I've been emphasizing in this engagement is that as we run and push them and succeed, in some of the elements like the finance bill, as we do that, let's not forget this other side. That's because when there's you are bound to be distracted.
Okay, I'm hoping that we're going to get there because I think let's go for 4. This other side, what is this other side and what is it that they're supposed to be doing? You said let's not forget this other side. Who's that? And what is it that they're meant to do?
Me and you.
What is that? What are we meant to do?
What should we do? What should you do?
Thank you very much. What am I doing? Probably. What am I doing?
Yeah.
So,
and not in your position as the president of the Chamber of Commerce, you as Peter.
So me as Peter, and of course I can't divorce the two, but as Peter, I'm privileged. I'm privileged to be in a chamber.
Yes.
Because what does it mean? You have entrepreneurs on board. It's a membership organization. So people who are coming here, they are people who are doing business. All right. I'm also privileged to be across border, right? To see other economies and to engage economies from other parts of the world, Africa and Asia and the Middle East, as you can see. Now, if the common Kenyan, in the midst of what is going on, they resolve, and some have done, honestly, Of course. Let me ask you a question.
Have
you had people in countries like Tanzania having a problem with Kenyans being there?
Yes.
Have you had that?
Yes.
What do you make of that?
Because you're competitive.
That they have a problem
We're very
with
competitive.
Kenyans.
Is it?
It's that they have a problem with Kenyans.
Exactly. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it on the economic side. Can you look at our GDP and their GDP?
Well, you look and tell us, what do you see?
What do you see?
Of course, it's far much better.
Ours is better than theirs?
Yes.
No.
Yes? No. Okay, let's start there. What is...
Qualify yourself.
What is their per capita?
I have no idea.
Okay, I don't have the numbers. I wouldn't want to go there. But what you need to check is their GDP, go down to their per capita. Because when you compare, you need to compare like for like. Okay? Kenyan economy still stands the best economy in East Africa. Not that it doesn't have struggles, yeah, but it is black and white. Kenyan economy is the biggest economy in East Africa.
Then East Africa is doing badly.
It has to do. No. The way I've said numbers, we need to get to your numbers. You need to check it to your numbers. Yeah, but you see, because of the things that have been happening.
You know this thing that Kenyans like talk about how big the economy is, how they're educated, how they're what. So what? I mean, honestly, so what? I mean, look, when people talk about those advantages, they need to reflect in the common denominator, who is the mwananchi you began the conversation with. Meaning certain things should be taken for granted. If we're this big an economy, we should be able to access healthcare without a wrinkle.
Yes.
Children should be able to access quality education without a wrinkle. Okay? When we talk about the rains coming down here, and you find that the county governments hadn't even, we knew it was going to rain, given that we knew the drainage system that is supposed to carry the water, has it been cleaned? Can the water flow? We'll find, not puddles, we'll find rivers on our roads. I'm simply saying this. I am not enamored with this thing about Kenya and how big and how wonderful and how Kenya is a wonderful country because the people of Kenya are wonderful people.
Yes.
Okay?
Agree.
But the economy and the story around it, why you find me saying what I'm saying as I'm raising my voice, it could be 10 times what we are saying. Why are we happily patting ourselves in the back with mediocrity? What are we doing saying this is a wonderful thing? And yet there's nothing that shows that Kenya is moving towards industrialization. Tanzania is.
If you look at their improvement, their growth, it's better than us.
They are. And if you look at the development, you look at, say, their railway line, which is electric, by the way, just so in case people don't know, and where it goes to, everything is purposed. They are ensuring that whatever they are building, the infrastructure, will be an integral part of their development towards industrialization. When you look at the Julius Nyerere hydroelectric dam, which is going to be bigger than the Renaissance Dam in terms of capacity, that is what it's for. So they have the infrastructure that will enable them to leapfrog and overtake us with ease. That's the point I am making. So when we say we have a bigger economy, okay, keep saying it.
We have a bigger economy on the books and papers, looks really good. But that as well should trickle down to the mwananchi. I stopped calling them common mwananchi. To the mwananchi, if it makes sense to them. Because today mwananchi says we are overtaxed, but we see no results. We are overtaxed, our money is getting stolen. And when they murmur, it's because they're calling for what? For accountability. When we talk about economic growth needs a government that looks at its people and intentionally puts in place policies, infrastructure development that will make their lives better. Are we seeing that from the side of the government? Question for another day.
This
But all for now.
that you belong to, if I may ask.
Sorry?
The Chamber of Commerce that you belong to.
Yes.
It sounds like it's big and it sounds like it's all encompassing. Given the membership that has been mentioned,
Yes.
how does that help in driving the economic growth in this country?
Sustainable.
Very good. Very, very good question. So, in chamber, proudly, what you asked me to speak about today, or the engagement topic today, the chamber stands for fostering sustainable trade, innovation, and investment. That is AMEC, Africa, Asia, Middle East Chamber of Commerce. So the word is sustainable. Okay? Now, when you have to do this, then it involves activities. One of the main activities that we bring in is networking. Okay? What is networking? It's about information, right? I need to know Dennis has this, do as that, my brother here has this, and what is the difference? What can I do? One time I was in Malaysia, and I was doing coffee with someone, and then we engaged a little bit. We went through tea and all that. Then I realized these guys, they import their coffee from Sri Lanka then. I don't think it's happening anymore. Yeah. When I followed, I realized the guys in Sri Lanka, they will take our tea from Kenya, right? They will go and blend with theirs and all that. They import to other countries, like from Sri Lanka, and it is branded grade 1, okay, which is now ours. Then they will mix with theirs, it's now grade 2, okay? Then theirs fully is now grade 3, and they sell to other countries. So the question was, do Kenyans know you can export this directly to Malaysia? And Malaysia, for over many years, there's been no visa requirement for you to travel there.
True.
So I find it's about information. People don't know that. Okay? Right now, we even have a direct flight from there to here.
Yes.
You understand? So one of the things we do is information.
Right.
People getting to know. Right? Of course, now you'll go to advocacy and all that. You know, being advocacy is now when you talk about the policies which have been put. You know, for example, the middleman who has been between the farmer and who is getting the money, who is getting the big chunk. Then the farmer is discouraged. Then tea bushes are being cut down at the end of the day. There are such things happening.
So all of these conversations are some of the ones that you'll be having come Thursday when you have this big network event, essentially, isn't it?
Yes, on 13th of March, on Thursday, we have investors and the speakers coming from Holland, Italy, Malaysia, Belgium, yeah, even the ambassador of Malaysia will be there, the peers of trade will be there, yeah. So these are the things we'll be engaging. But much more, what are we doing? It is called CEO Conclave and the Investors Dinner. So we're inviting the leaders, the CEOs, the MDs, the entrepreneurs to be attending the event, okay? And when they come, what do? It is open networking, right? Yeah. Nobody is going to tell you to keep some information in between there so that they can benefit and put a margin for you. Yeah. So those are some of the things that we are involved in, and we believe each individual can contribute.
Yes.
And we are not saying stop, you know, the button that Kenyans you are praising, pushing the policymakers and the government to. We are not saying that.
Keep pushing.
Keep pushing them. And then on this other side of the coin, yourself, please work hard, gain more knowledge, capacity building for yourself, right? Network with other people. Network with people from other countries, right? Right now, most of the Kenyans, the youth, there are people who are writing theses and proposals for people from whichever country. Yeah? I had had some taxation coming on that side. It has not happened.
I hear you. I mean, it's great to have these conversations. And we want to thank you for being here to share with us this morning. Peter Mutinda is the president of the Africa, Asia and Middle East Chamber of Commerce, and he's been here with us as we discuss sustainable economic growth, what Kenya can learn. Thank you for joining us in the hot seat this morning, and thank you for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation to start off the week. Appreciate you being in the room with us every day. We'll talk again tomorrow at 6 a.m. God willing. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life